Hello and welcome back to the House of the Stag Podcast. Today we're joined by none other than Eric Nolan. Hey mate, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good. Yourself?
Pretty
Pretty
good,
good.
man.
Yeah.
And this has been a
Little did I know it took 4.5 hours to set this thing
oh
up.
yeah,
But
lots of framing, lots of framing, guys. Let's start with something very recent. You just went to the Game of Thrones tour, to the studio tour, and you also reunited with your old Wildling costume. How was it?
strange. Strange because it it felt, like museums. Museums are old shit,
Mm.
from Egypt, not TV shows, that kind of thing. So luckily my friend, she works with HBO and she works with their archives. So she and her team, and she was part of a massive team that took all of the stuff from Game of Thrones when it finished and set it up and cleaned it and got it prepped and decided what goes where and what happens and how the studio tour is put together. So the grand opening was this Friday, and she brought me as a plus one. And rule number one was don't be a big, massive fangirl, act like you don't care, that sort of thing. Don't wear any Game of Thrones merch, don't start freaking out when celebrities walk by, the usual rules. So it opened on Friday, but the day before, we went to the actual archives itself. So they took me to just, secretly, a secret location in the middle of a secret place in a secret country is all I'll say, just because I don't want to get in trouble or get anyone killed. And in there is it Indiana Jones, where at the end of it, they push open this massive warehouse and it's just containers full of stuff. You'll have to put that scene into the podcast to make the reference work. But it was basically like Storage Wars, but everything was Game of Thrones stuff. Like everything you've ever seen on Game of Thrones season 1 to season 8 was there. The cups, the whatever, the knives, the daggers, the knives and forks, the flags, the statues, the everything. So I was just walking around freaking out. And then stuff that I haven't seen ever was there. And I'm walking through the armory, and there's Prince Oberyn's spear from when he fights the mountain. There's, Viserys's sword, Dario Naharis's dagger, which is one of my favorite pieces of weaponry in the world. And I was just like freaking out, you know how it is. And like, obviously, I think, now I don't know because I don't really work with the studio tour, but I think what's happened is they've set up the tour now and it's opened and it's going to be open for the whole, it's never going to close. It's not like the exhibit that would travel the world. It's literally there now and it's permanent. I imagine what's going to happen is whatever's on display now for the next 6 months will be there. And then maybe they'll take a break, take a month off, and they will then go back to their archives, change out the costumes, change out something else, bring in new weapons, bring in new interactive things, and do that, because then it's constantly fresh. So obviously if I went on Friday, I've seen it all now. So maybe I won't return. But if 6 months from now they change it and they go, oh, it's winter, or it's season 2, or it's Battle of Blackwater Mondays, then obviously they can keep refreshing it and they have enough stock to just keep going with it. So it was cool. It was cool. And going through the archive is like a weird thing because I was seeing stuff, as I said, that I'd never seen before. But like for me doing Battle of the Bastards, when I was walking down one of the corridors, they had the X's that they had, the flayed men X's. Walking around the corner, there's the chair that Theon Greyjoy got tortured on. There's the X he got tortured on. All the stuff that I was never a part of because I started in season 5. So anything previous to season 5 is all new to me, whatever. So we just kept traveling through the archives, and then there was basically what you would describe as a morgue full of Game of Thrones costumes. So it was like just every faction just lined up. Every Lannister costume, from Lannister male number 1 to Lannister male 300, as far as the eye could see, and it has every actor's piece of clothing they've ever worn in the show. So I was walking by these body bags with Littlefinger's jacket from season 2 when he does this scene or whatever, you know, and it was crazy. And then I found a big box full of masks from the Harpies, and I was like, these are the cool. Can I just have, you know, steal this stuff? Like, which can I steal? Obviously, I stole nothing, but it was cool. So then the next morning we went to the opening, and it's really good. Like, I'd been to the exhibit before, which traveled from Belfast, and it went to France, and it went to Spain, and I was in Spain at the time, and me and my girlfriend at the time went there to check it out, and it was really good, but it felt really short. But this exhibition, this studio tour, you could, you know, for a massive Game of Thrones fan who wants to take in absolutely everything, you're talking 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Then obviously they have you nerds will be all over it. Yes. And they also have a lot of interactive stuff. So you can like shoot whites with a bow and arrow. They have like prosthetic little kind of CGI machines. I was dressed up as the Lord of Bones, you know, just for nostalgia, crying purposes. But the detail, and they have other stuff. So one thing they didn't have at the exhibition was like music. And they have Ramin Djawadi's set up in the tour as well, which is cool to see. And he has all the instruments that he's used to make the music, because obviously that's one of the one of the most loved parts of Game of Thrones, that the love will never change, is the score, like the compositions of the show.
I think I would just spend 3 hours listening to the Stannis theme in that studio, like just blasting,
just getting hyped.
Oh hell yeah!
More and more hyped on
Lord of Light on repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really good. And for me, like, I knew a long time ago that my costume would be on display, but it's until you actually see it. And obviously no one knows, like, no one gives a shit except for me, you know. There's no plaque that says my name, as much as I could find an email of someone and be like, please, I'll put a Polaroid picture or whatever, or I'll just teach all the staff members to point out that that's some random dude from the background, just because the costume looks cool, no matter what his head looked like. So to be in the Winterfell Hall again, and it's legitimately where they filmed The King of the North. Like, it wasn't just some, let's completely replicate from the show. It's legitimately the studio where they filmed the show. So when you walk into the map room where Cersei had the map of Westeros painted, that's legitimately the map. It's the room, you know. So when you walk into the throne room, obviously I'm not going to spoil it, it's fucking huge, you know, and it's got, well, you'll see when you get there, or not.
Oh, definitely will. It's still on my to-do list. So, gotta go to.
So it's really good, and it was strange because it's like, as I said, it's not old, is it? I'm not old, am I?
No,
you know,
no.
So
it's
not even me, because when you go back even further, it's like, so when I was there, people in the crowd that were queuing up for us were like Michelle Clapton, the girl who did all the costumes for the show. Like, she had come to look. And when you get up close and personal from like you guys to your microphone to these costumes, and you'll see that she spent 16 hours, you know, sewing this certain intricate thing into the dress, and they do a wide shot. It's like, what? So to watch them come back, and obviously there was a lot more people from the show that were there, and everyone is emotionally attached to the show in different ways. So it's really cool, and they've really put a lot of money into it, which is good. They are confident in its success.
Oh, definitely. I imagine if House of the Dragon does well, you can update it with a few little House of the Dragon sections and stuff like this.
And that's it. So, like, everything can be kind of reused and added on, and hopefully that's what they can do. And I know when I was leaving, there's stuff that's there that hasn't even been put on display yet. So they have stuff in the car park or parking lot, depending on whatever in the world you're listening to this podcast from. And they've got like Euron Greyjoy's ship, the Silence, just there just in the car park, ready to go. You know, so when the summer hits, because it's been really, really bad weather here. When the summer hits, I imagine a lot of people will be able to go up and down that thing that he comes down, you know,
Yeah.
shoot a few scorpions at the highway, you know. But yeah, it's really good, and it's better than I thought it would be, which is obviously good. I can't see it through a tourist's eyes. That's the only problem. So there's stuff that I just kind of skip by because I'm like, yeah, I was there. It's fine, you know. Yeah, it's really good. Definitely recommend it when you guys come to Ireland. It's in between Belfast and Dublin. So if you guys fly into Dublin, you can get there in an hour. If you guys fly into Belfast, you can get there in an hour. And I think there's bus services. You'd have to, you know, unless I'm making commission, contact me.
I will.
So
It's still, as I said.
Yeah, I'll do a private tour for you.
Awesome, man.
We can rent bicycles and cycle there for 4.5 hours.
I'm down for it, man.
Check out.
Just that one Stannis theme playing the whole time.
Wouldn't expect anything else, man.
Let's go check out Viserys' wig that everyone wears.
What's on House of the Dragon now, man? What are you talking about?
Yeah, they're gonna like make so many copies of Viserys' wig. All right.
Yeah.
So how did you get into acting? Was this something you always wanted to do?
No. I haven't even started acting yet. So I didn't try and get into acting. I just ended up in a TV show, you know, that kind of way. And then once I realized that that's a job, that you can dress up and fuck around with swords instead of putting numbers in boxes. Like, obviously, when I meet people, like I used to do Game of Thrones tours pre-pandemic. I would meet people and be like, oh man, you got the coolest job in the world and you do this and you've, you know, traveled here and you've done that. And I'm like, yeah, but you get paid on Friday and then you get paid on the Friday after that. And then you get paid, like you have a financial stability. So it was never something I tried to get into. Now, since COVID, since the pandemic, it's become a lot easier to do acting. Not that you know, how do I explain that? Like if I was to go to an audition, there'd be 50 people right there, where now it's like self-tapes. So it gives me a little, you know, as much as I talk for a living and have been on TV shows and I'm in front of camera, it's always that kind of, I'm still shy, you know. I still won't get in front of a room and start, you know, knocking out Hamlet. So there was that kind of nice progression of, well, I'll apply for this show and I'll use this audition, but if it's shitty, I can show my girlfriend and she'll go, yeah, that's shitty. And I'll go, okay, I'll ask someone else. And they'll be like, yeah, that's all right. You know, so I always ask everybody, you know, if I ask my mom, how does that look? She'd be like, oh, it's amazing, son, you know, because she's my mom. So I have to ask people who hate me, hey, how was that acting? And they were like, yeah, it was all right, you know, so then I send it. So it's only kind of in the past maybe 3 or 4 years that I've actually tried to give acting a go, whereas obviously extra work and acting work is completely different. Extra work is like a meat prop, you know, you're just there to make the background not look empty or whatever. So when I got into, I was in music college, and one of the guys in my college, he lives in a place called Ashford, or he lived in a place called Ashford. And at the time they were filming Vikings for the History Channel, and they were looking for people, just anybody. Long hair, beards are preferred. At the time I didn't have this long of hair or this long of a beard, but I signed up anyway. And so did my friend, my, you know, childhood friend signed up as well. And we both got a call, and I was made a Viking and he was made a French villager, which is hilarious because I was given all this chainmail and cool axes, and he was given a little blue dress with yellow shoes, you know. So, so I started work on the Viking series as an extra, and started in season 3. And I've never done any like TV or film or anything before. Like it was that I never had seen the process. I never knew that in any TV show, when they're in a nightclub, there's never music playing. There's just absolute silence and 200 people pretending they are dancing to music. And after doing it now for some jobs, it's so awkward. It's unbelievable, you know, but then that kind of helps you get out of your comfort zone when you have to arrive on a set and do the stupidest shit immediately, and then everyone's doing it, so you're not really that kind of self-conscious. So once I started working on Vikings, and I got to know a lot of the guys that were there, a lot of them had done TV and film for years. A couple of them had been in Braveheart, which was filmed like 25 years ago here, and they'd still done extra work from Braveheart. They went to King Arthur or to the Tudors, to whatever. They just followed the TV work. And they also went to Game of Thrones. So they showed me how to sign up, and I signed up for the show, and I got a call a few days later to do a couple of days on season 5, which happened to be the Hardhome Massacre. So when I signed up, the first scene that I do in Game of Thrones is when the Lord of Bones meets Jon Snow, and he meets Tormund, and then Tormund beats the shit out of the Lord of the Bones and smashes his head to pieces. Spoiler alert. And that was my first day, obviously losing my mind as a massive fan of Game of Thrones, because I would have done it for free, but obviously you get paid. But I would have done it for free for, the first day. It's a very hard job, and I'm sure you guys having Andy on your show a lot, he'll tell you that he would have done it for free.
Oh, I'm sure.
Everyone would have done it for free. But then there's times where it's like -5 and you're freezing and you haven't slept properly for 4 days. And then you're like, oh, okay, what are we doing today? Oh, everyone's a dead body lying in the mud. All right, perfect. This is Hollywood, So after Game of Thrones, then I just kind of jumped between Vikings, Game of Thrones, Vikings, Game of Thrones. Then an opportunity came to be a tour guide for the Game of Thrones locations tours. So then my whole life was Game of Thrones, literally talking about the show all the time. And then working on the show as much as I could. And then that was it. Did season 5, season 6, season 7, season 8. Had an emotional breakdown. And now I'm ready to talk about Game of Thrones. No, I didn't. I mean, yeah, it was very sad, obviously. But I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But first I want to talk about something else. You're a very good singer, actually. And for you out there, hop on Eric's channel. He has a weekend cover that is amazing. And I guess I just wanted to ask, when will you drop your mixtape? Is that something you would want to do?
My mixtape?
Yeah, or an album.
Like my rap mixtape?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think I will go about the route that Sia did and Lady Gaga did. I know, looking at me now, you're thinking that guy listens to speed metal. Nah, I love Billie Eilish. Where they spent so many years creating music from behind the scenes, and then when their right time was to show up, they just showed up and became the highest selling artist ever. I've no idea. I get little phases of like, oh, I'm going to do this type of music. And then I start recording that type of music. And then I kind of get defeated by the music industry. And then I step back and go, no, I'll make cinematic music, and I'll make trailers, and I'll make this. And then I go, oh yeah, but I'm not Hans Zimmer.
By the way, thank you.
Fucking 15-piece.
By the way, thank you. Eric actually provided the music
Easter
for our
egg.
intro.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, so excuse me. So I really like kind of cinematic stuff and production, and then obviously doing Vikings now, the music in that, like this kind of folk music, is so cool. I'd love to be able to do it, and I have done covers in Old Norse or in other languages just to try and get that vibe. So I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird imposter syndrome thing where some days I can sing and some days I can't.
I highly doubt that, because singing Weekend is very, very hard, and you actually nailed it. Like, you're very, very good at singing. Don't talk.
I explained
don't talk down to yourself. It's
I explain it to people who ask me, because I studied music production or whatever. And people ask, like, oh, what kind of music do you listen to? I was like, I have an older brother and an older sister. And my older brother listens to the hardest hardcore metal on the planet. And my sister listened to pop music. And it was either to choose between fucking Slipknot or Shakira. And I was just like, all right, give me that Shakira CD and I'll just listen to that. So I think what then happened, I started to sing the songs as I was listening to them, and then train my voice. Like, I've never had vocal training or anything like that. and I've trained my voice to sing in a higher pop register. And then now that I'm there, I'm like, oh, I wish I could sing deeper and more metal because of how I look or whatever. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I now have a better setup, and I now know what I'm doing, and I have a lot of contacts, secret ones and hidden away ones that I know that I could, being in the acting and TV and film industry, and anybody who's listening to this from those industries, they will know that nepotism is what really gets you a job, So I wouldn't have been invited to the Game of Thrones studio tour if I didn't know that person, and I wouldn't have got to this place if I hadn't known that person. And the person who got in front of me for other jobs I missed out on, they knew some, that kind of thing. And I've had jobs where I've auditioned for, they were literally looking for me, a 6'4", long hair, bearded man, perfect, this is what we want. And I didn't get the job, and they bring in some 5'8" dude and basically dress him how I look. Yeah. And I go, well, how did he get that job? It's like, oh, well, he's providing this and this and this and this, and you're only providing the acting. So I'm like, oh, well, I understand. They've just saved fucking $3,000. So yeah. So I have some stuff. There's a friend of mine who's a music producer, and we are kind of working together, maybe, just a little bit. Or not. Because so we'll see. I'll let you know when you guys have a new podcast about musicians and you're finished interviewing Ricky Gervais and you're interviewing the Kid Leroy. Yeah, you can get me back on your podcast,
Yeah, we'll call it House of Shakira.
Oh, no way. There's definitely a better pun out there. We can leave it in the comments, because but yeah, I've actually started to try and get into audiobook recording. So that's what I've been doing. And I recorded some typical, it's called stage Irish. No one in Ireland talks how people in Ireland are portrayed in TV and film. Like nobody. Like that leprechaun voice from America. Yeah. It exists in America alone. There is probably 6 people on this whole island that have that accent, and they're probably not allowed out in public. So I've tried to do it, and I obviously Irish up my voice. But immediately, as soon as I start manipulating my own voice, the first thing I want to do is make orc voices from Lord of the Rings. And, I want to make a voice acting real, because I guess the dream is to be a computer game character and to do voiceovers. There's a couple of guys that I follow, and this one guy, he goes to the same studio every day, but every day he goes to the same studio, he dresses in mocap and he plays a different character. And he's been in like Resident Evil, and he's been in all these games where he gets to just fuck around with his voice and jump around in a suit. So that's the dream, So yeah, I'm starting to get into voice acting. And,
you sent a snippet of you doing some orc.
Yeah,
sounds.
I did,
yeah. It was pretty damn good.
I know,
man.
right?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
and I've done some actual audiobook reading, in the style of like this app, Calm, where Matthew McConaughey slowly talks everyone's wives to sleep.
Oh, are you in Calm? I use Headspace.
I don't use any of them. I just go to bed. I've tried to do that kind of style voice, and I've put like rain and all that sort of stuff in the background. And that would be the dream, to just talk, into a microphone for hundreds of euros an hour. So yeah, trying to do everything except a normal job, That's why I like doing the tours, is because I literally get to, for 8 hours, just make fun of people, take the piss out of every nationality, and they're like, yeah, this is good. It's a Game of Thrones tour, it's over 18s. So immediately I can call someone a cunt for showing up late. And they're like, whoa, but because I say it in an accent, it's completely fine, So yeah, I've had a lot of people on the tour who've never seen the show, and they are the hardest ones to win over when I say something, because they're like, oh my god, that's so rude. And then they watch the show. We show episode 1 and episode 2 on the way home, and there's a lot worse shit than on the first 2 episodes than me cursing at someone, So But it makes everything a lot easier to go through, you know. So I'm not as a harsh kind of person pushing people through the locations or anything like that. It's more of a fun kind of get the fuck on the bus instead of a come on guys, you know, like ordering them around like a school trip. So
Okay, so the next question, you guys came across like family, all the extra guys, and we had Andy on, and you also had nothing but love for the show and the people who worked on Game of Thrones, and you all speak very, very fondly about the experiences you had. And yeah, so I guess I just wanted to ask you, what does Game of Thrones mean to you?
a lot. I was gonna say everything, but then
Would have been too
I guess
epic.
not. Yeah, it would have been too epic. I know I would have started crying. Yeah, no, it means a lot. Obviously, it's so I lost my job. I quit my job. I quit my normal job, my normal 9 to 5, just to do a couple of days as an extra in Game of Thrones.
Wow.
So afterwards, I lived off of no money just to try and be in Game of Thrones. And if it wasn't for some people that I met who put me up in their house or bought the hostel for the week or drove me back and forth from Dublin to Belfast, then I wouldn't have been able to do it, you know. So regardless of the show, it was all people making the show, you know. So it's a weird thing. So saying like at the end of the season, we'd be like, okay, see you next year, hopefully, you know, because if there's no wildlings, if they all died at Hardhome, then nobody comes back. It's not like when I worked on Vikings. The key theme of Vikings is Vikings. So the key theme is you're basically unkillable because they're going to bring you back in a different costume and nobody's paying attention. But Game of Thrones, especially the final season, there were certain episodes where it's like, yeah, that's the last Night's Watch. And that's it. We only realized that morning that those 12 or 20 guys, this is their last day. They're not coming back next week for the big whatever. So it'd be the instant, oh shit, I got to say goodbye for 5 or 6 years to these guys that I've met, you know, spent 17 hours hanging out with, sleeping in horrible hostels, avoiding everybody who snores, you know, slowly weaning it down to 6 people I could sleep in a room with who don't snore, and just experiencing all that stuff together. So I wouldn't compare it to, you know, the military because I've never been in it. And obviously the stuff that they do is real and not just a couple of boys fighting the Boltons for TV. But the conditions are really difficult. And a lot of people, especially in season 8, because of how hard the conditions were, a lot of people did drop out. And I imagine for people like the Unsullied soldiers, the Unsullied extras, who were used so frequently in season 8, and for the battle, they were like, you know, it's 55 night shoots, you know, from a pickup around noon till 6 a.m. every day. And the Unsullieds probably did the most number of days. And it's -5, and they've got these massive fans blowing all the snow at them. So it's freezing, and they're wearing these little pleather costumes. Like I'm wearing a big fur Wildling jacket, and underneath my jacket is every t-shirt I've ever owned because I'm allowed to be bigger. But these Unsullied guys have to be all schmediums. They have to be a certain, you know, body type to be the role. So when they would hire extras and they come there, and let's say George, you'd be an Unsullied, they'd be like, great, shave your head, shave your beard, that's it. Here's a costume made of pleather. It's -15 outside. You're going to stand still for 5.5 hours. Then a man from the army is going to blow a whistle and shout at you for 15 hours. Welcome to Game of Thrones, you know. So if you go, well, I can't handle that, I quit, they then have to bring the next person in. So these Unsullied soldiers, I imagine, when there's 50 of them and the 10 who survived that week of filming, they became closer friends because they knew they would never quit. Like there was always just one really bad day, and then it was, well, at least it's not as bad as last week, you know, that kind of thing. And there was times doing season 6, doing Battle of the Bastards, where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is horrible. This is the worst conditions ever. And then the next day it's like, oh shit, there's Jon Snow. Holy shit, he's alive. And then you go, this is the best day ever. And like yesterday was shitty. So it was trying to get that sort of mentality across to other people so they stay. But all the people who did stay and all the people I still hang out with and still talk to. Obviously, in the last 2 years, it's been difficult, but some of them are from down south, and we've been working on a Netflix show called Valhalla, which is out in 20 days. I think Netflix. Hopefully, all 8 or 10 or 12 episodes drop in one go. So I got to meet a lot of those guys. So throughout the pandemic, filming still goes on. In Ireland, filming was classed as essential work, which is strange, because it was just nurses, doctors, and fucking actors going to work. Because the nurses and doctors need Netflix to watch when they're finished, saving the globe. So I got to hang out with them, but still we all talk about Thrones. And it's always, if I ever am in Belfast, I will always talk and text the friends that I know that are there and be like, yo, you hanging out for a beer? And it will just literally click back into place. It's 2018. It's March. We're doing the final episode. Oh, remember this happened. Remember that happened. And obviously so much stuff has happened since then that there's loads to kind of catch up on. And obviously then we could literally sit in the room, like me and Andy. I've been to Andy's house a couple of times post Game of Thrones. And obviously all we talk about is Game of Thrones. Like what else will we talk about? What else do you need to talk about? And just hearing, like, he's told you guys some stories, and probably he's forgotten stories, because doing this kind of tour guide and stuff and doing these kind of podcast interviews, you forget stories and then you go, oh shit, I should have said this, So there's stuff that probably I need to unlock in his head that he doesn't know yet, so at some point you'll have, let's say in a year's time, when your podcast is, when Ricky Gervais is on the next one, and then it blows up completely, it'll be, Andy, Eric, Ricky Gervais, the lads, the fucking the Deathly Hallows of lads with beards. So we could come back and I could bring 5 or 6 lads, or anybody, guys, girls, from Thrones, and sit like some sort of round table, and you would hear stuff that no one's ever heard, because it'd be like, oh shit, yeah, you were there for this, and I remember this, and oh yeah, whatever. So it's a massive Vin Diesel quote family, because it was so long. And then obviously the end, the final season, the final episodes, emotional wreck, like me, everyone. And it was that thing of hearing like directors ask extras just before a scene, how long have you worked here? And them saying 10 years. And him going, Jesus, that's insane. That's more than this actor over here who's been here for 2 or 3 years, who's getting a big send off, and he's getting all these presents, and he's getting all the money, and he's getting all this commercial success, and you've been here 8 years longer than him, and you've just sat in the back quiet, just going about your business, enjoying Game of Thrones. So there was always, and obviously doing extra work, the smorgasbord of lunatics that do this type of work. You will never be bored. People who say, oh, it's a lot of waiting around and it's a lot of doing nothing. Go and do it, and then just chat to the weirdest looking fella in the room, and that man will tell you a story. That girl will tell you the craziest shit that's ever happened, especially the wildlings from Game of Thrones, as they were cast perfectly, because they're all mentally unstable, and they still are. They're just out now. There's just all the guys who were at Hardhome, and all the guys who were at Battle of the Bastards, and all the guys who were at the Frozen Lake, and all the guys who were at the Long Night. They're just out in the real world right now. They're driving cars, like they're in front of heavy machinery right now, So yeah, it means so much. Like, it was my job, acting wise or extra work. Obviously, it's acting, it's background acting, but you're still trying. You're not dicking about. You're not just looking at Jon Snow going, God, he's handsome. You're literally making it look good, and that's why I imagine when they hired people, they wanted people to be fans of the show, because if you're fans of the show, you know that you want the product to be amazing. There wasn't a single time when filming The Long Night that we weren't giving it 150% at all times, even though it's night 51 and you're so tired, and I've blown out my quads and my calves are killing me, and this costume's uncomfortable, and these bones weigh 9 kilos and whatever. When they call action, I'm the fastest kid alive. And the scene in Endgame where Captain America and Black Panther are running towards the battle, and they're the first 2 guys that are like obviously the fastest. that's just me and my friend Will. You know Will from owning the Direwolves and doing some Q&As with you guys. So it's like, this is how hyped we are at all times. Like, we were running on caffeine, adrenaline, and love for Game of Thrones and stuff like that. So when it ended, it was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to be like that on any other set, you know? And after finishing Game of Thrones and going back to Vikings for their final season, it was different. And when it ended in Vikings, it was kind of like, all right, well, there's the spin-off. I was like, okay, I better not get too sad then.
I mean, there's going to be a Game of Thrones spin-off too. I imagine quite a lot of these. Would you ever work for any of these shows again?
Maybe I have.
Oh.
I see.
No, I haven't. No, I just thought I'd fucking fuck with you. I have had offers to do it. And I did spend 2020, because it's being filmed in England. And obviously not being from England or based in England at all, it's hard to know the contacts. Like, who do I talk to? Do I just type in Game of Thrones casting? No, I have to find someone who's already working there to tell me how they got there and all that sort of stuff. So eventually I did find a forbidden door and I did apply. Unfortunately, I was too late. But it's not over, right?
There's always
and from what I hear, it's going to be successful. There's always going to be a season 2. I mean, they shot Blood Moon, the original pilot, in Belfast, which unfortunately wasn't greenlit, but House of the Dragon has gotten past the stages it needs to. And knowing, you know, previously during the final season of, like, the final filming of season 8, hearing the rumors of what prequels are coming and what hasn't been announced yet, or maybe it's been completely canned totally. I know Brian Cogman, who's one of the writers, he wanted to do a Khal Drogo off and do a whole culture on the Dothraki, like a whole Dothraki series. Like, imagine Vikings, but it's the Dothraki. But the problem with that is everyone knows Khal Drogo dies in like episode 6 of season 1, so there's no dramatic weight to it. You know, it's like Legolas being in The Hobbit. It's like, he's not going to die. Stop making him fight people for 45 minutes. So as much as it would be cool to see Khal Drogo kick the shit out of people, you know, eventually he gets killed by a pillow. So you're not really that invested.
Well, I know for a fact you would have loved to see this series.
I would have been in it.
You are the biggest Jason Momoa fan I know. And I remember when I was out.
I know people who was a bigger fan, so it's not weird, right? It's not weird, right?
No, man, it's cool. I remember when I was sitting at home, I was watching a movie or something, and you sent me a picture. And I went on to click on that picture, and it's you, William, and Jason Momoa sharing a Guinness, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah, man.
So how did that come about?
It's really funny because I imagine if Andy ever watches this, he'd be like, not this fucking story again. But yeah, so best day ever, still to this day. What is it, the 5th, 2022, 23? So massive fan of Jason Momoa, massive fan of Khal Drogo. Obviously, the dude's just cool. He just oozes cool. He just oozes what seems to be a nice guy. So obviously he was dead when I started Game of Thrones. So no chance of ever meeting him. And we were filming season 8, episode 4, which was the feast scene. So post-funeral, it's the feast. And it was my first day or first few days on season 8, and I didn't really work on season 7 because I was alive. I was an alive wildling. So I did episode 1 of season 7, and I did episode 7 of season 7. So in between, when they went to the wall and they did the frozen lake, because I survived, I wasn't allowed to go there to my death. So they kept the continuity nice. So when I had arrived in season 8, there was a lot of extras there who did all of season 7 that I'd never met before. So my friend William sat me down and was like, this is blah, blah, this is who, this is da, da, da. So we were hanging out and we were in Banbridge, which is where the new studio is. We're just chatting and they're playing Cards Against Humanity, which is obviously a game to try and make everybody laugh. And especially when you're filming a TV show and you really have to be quiet, trying not to laugh when they're filming Game of Thrones literally next door makes it even more impossible, to hold the laughter in. So I walk out to use the bathroom or come back or whatever, and one of the girls goes, I think Jason Momoa just walked by. And me and Will just fucking freaked out like we're 13-year-old girls, because Jason Momoa is just the coolest person in the world to us in our brains. So we immediately step out of our chairs and go on a hunt and run around and find a load of costume department people going, Jason Momoa is here. And all the girls went, excuse me, what? So then it was me, Will, and about 15 girls, like some sort of Scooby-Doo thing, going through all the corridors and just trying to find the guy. So we split up, classic horror movie rules. And Will comes back around the corner and he's like, yo, man, he's in catering. He's just eating pineapple. I was like, man, I fucking love pineapple. The stupidest shit we were saying. We were very sleep deprived. But yeah, so he was there. He came obviously because it was the final season, and it was the feast scene had the most amount of cast members in it. So it was the perfect time to come and visit, because you were going to meet the 25 cast members from the show. And we then were there kind of just going, holy shit, what the fuck do we do? Man, I'm going to talk to him. Man, I'm going to get fired to take a photo. I don't give a fuck. I'm getting, that kind of thing. Like we had stickers, security stickers on our phone so we couldn't take photographs. I was like, I don't care. I'm taking a photo, that kind of thing. So we go into the Great Hall and we're there, and he walks by, and just as I'm about to say something, he goes, sweet costume, man. And I just went, blah, blah, blah. You know how it is. And he like touched me on the shoulder, and then that was it. I never washed this arm ever again. And then he looked at Will and did this. And since then, Will's hand has been forever just held like this, So yeah, we were freaking out and we were losing our mind. And then that day of filming, David Nutter asked me to speak on Game of Thrones. And I was like, holy fuck, I get to meet Jason Momoa, and I'm about to start saying words on the biggest show in the world on the final season. So the scene itself was when Tormund is trying to force Jon to drink the big yard of alcohol. So I was in that scene. So because David Nutter asked me my name, and I said Eric, and then he never forgot it. He forgot everybody else's name, but always just remembered my name. So it would be like, oh, get me Jon and Tormund and Daenerys and Sansa and Eric. Bring in Eric. And I was just like, what? So I'm in the room with the millionaires who are the main cast of Game of Thrones, and they're looking at me going, he's probably an actor. He's probably a guy they've brought in. They've no recollection of me ever being in the show, from 60 feet away. And Christoph, who plays Tormund, is like, okay, so I'm going to say this, and then he's going to say that, and then you say this, and then he'll say that, and then the scene will play out. Got that? And I'm like, all right. Like, what accent do I have? like everything is running through my head.
Spanish.
Because then they start bringing in David Nutter, the director of The Red Wedding, and as Andy will say as well, the greatest human being on planet Earth. He's so nice, and he's just the best. He's just the best. So he comes in, he's like, right, let me hear it. And obviously Christoph behind the scenes goes, okay, I'm going to be acting this 150%. So when he tells me to tone it down, I'll be exactly as crazy as I wanted to be at the start. And I'm like, okay. And he comes over and he starts shouting and doing all the stuff. And David Nutter goes, yeah, tone it down 50%. And I was like, holy shit, the guy's a genius. He knew exactly how the director would react to his overplaying it, so he could play it exactly how he wanted it, instead of playing it and then going, no, change it. Oh, no, change it. No, change it. He literally just had, because obviously those actors have been those characters for so many years. They know exactly how to act. And obviously Christoph and Tormund in season 8 since season 7 has become a comedy, kind of a light-hearted thing of, all the horrible shit that's going on. He's a scene stealer for all the comedy that was going on. So he knew he's basically Tormund in real life, if you guys haven't known already. So we did the scene. I said some words, filmed some scenes. Then David Benioff and Dan Weiss came in, dressed as wildlings. And if you want, I can send you the photo. I don't know if you've seen that they were in the show, but I was also there. And we featured some scenes with those guys, which is cool to meet the guys who created the show, as much as everyone hates them now, they are still the ones who created the show. And what's really funny is they've definitely produced shows since Game of Thrones, but they just haven't put their names really at the don't shout at them, you know. So there's definitely a show coming that everyone's definitely going to go, oh my god, that's an amazing show. And then in season 2 they'll be like, yeah, produced and written by David Benioff, and they'll be like, oh, what, I thought he was terrible at writing. So we met them, and this was all the same day. So met Jason Momoa, said some words on Game of Thrones, shot some scenes with the creators of the show, finished the day. And then I said to Will, I was like, yo, Momoa's here. There's a big dinner tonight. Do you think he's going to be in a pub? And he's like, obviously, if I brought you guys to Ireland, I'm taking you to my favorite pub. So us being Game of Thrones stans, we know where he drinks or likes to drink. So we decided to go to the pub that he normally is frequented at. So we're walking around the corner and we're joking and laughing and we're going, oh man, I can't believe I got featured today. Oh man, I can't believe you said words today. You know, we're already on 11 out of 10. Walk around the corner and Jason Momoa is definitely in that bar. And we walk right in, and I didn't know what to say, but my body just gravitated towards him like a weirdo. And I, you know, kind of just white noise, you know, when like Saving Private Ryan, when it starts off and there's just like bombs going off and people can't hear. That's what was going on in my head. And I was just like, hey, and he's like, oh, you guys just finished work? And obviously in my head I'm like, oh my god, he remembered, you know. Like, so like all this shit happening. Obviously I never said this or acted like this properly. I acted real cool in real life, and I just said, yo, you want a Guinness? And he's like, of course I do. And then I was like, right, barkeep, 3 Guinness. And we just kind of said some words and then walked away, because we're not really weirdos. And obviously a post-work drink sometimes happened anyway, so we just sat about 8 foot from Jason Momoa, and then text everyone we know saying, guess who's 8 foot away from us, you know, including you. And then we're drinking, and I was like, yo, I'm going to ask him for a photo, because we're never going to see him again, ever. And I had finally that feeling that every fan has when they run after cars of celebrities, like this is the only chance you'll ever meet this actor. But I never had that feeling before, because I thought, well, you know, I get to meet Kit Harington most days and whatever, and obviously I'm a massive fan, but I'll never break this work and fan thing. I would never do it. I've never jeopardized future work or any work for a photograph, you know, that kind of thing. Because then immediately their attitudes change, which obviously your attitude would change if someone you were just talking to normally about your family, your day, suddenly went, yeah, anyway, about that, can I have a photo? Yeah. I mean, it just changes everything, you know. So but I had to do it, you know. It's like, nah, I'll break my rule just once. So I was like, all right, I'll drink this, but not too fast, because it's weird that we just showed up, drank a load of beer really fast, then asked him for a photo. We'll drink this at the right speed. So I drank mine, and Will was driving, so I drank his. And then I was like, I'll go to the bathroom, and when I come back, I'll ask him for a photo. So I step up, and as I'm stepping up, this giant man's hands come around and drops 2 more Guinness with us. And he's like, there you go, boys, I got to go for a dinner. So he bought us 2 Guinness, and then we were like, oh, can we have a photo? Obviously, we didn't say it like that. We said it like, yeah, can we have a photo?
I like how it's actually a Khal Drogo impression that you're doing.
Oh, yeah, forever. So he's like, yeah, man, of course, you guys work for Game of Thrones, so I can trust that you're not going to share it anywhere. You're not going to post it anywhere. You're not going to... Because if he's caught in Belfast, it'll just... Season 8, they'll be like, oh, my God, Khal Drogo's back. They're going to do this. And he didn't want the fucking, you know, smoke. So he said, yeah, of course. Took a photo. Obviously... 3 idiots just like staring at the camera, or 2, or just me. Sorry, it's just me. Take some photos, and Amelia Clark was there the whole time, like just in the bar beside us, and we didn't care. We didn't even clock that she was there. As much as I'm the same height as Jason Momoa, he's like William Wallace. He's like 10 foot tall. You know the stories of people where it's like, oh, he just gives out that aura that he's taller. So he took a photo, and then he left. And then as I walked to the bathroom, I found £20 on the ground. So all the money that I'd spent on Guinness was just reimbursed by, you know, someone who'd also dropped £20 earlier in the day. So I was in Game of Thrones season 8, spoke lines in season 8, met David Benioff and Dan Weiss, got a feature, met Jason Momoa, drank Guinness with Jason Momoa, and found 20 pounds on the ground.
Holy fuck, that's lucky.
Best day ever. Yeah. And then it was like coming back to set the next day and doing the continued feast scene and seeing Amelia Clark, who had seen me and Will fangirl in front of Jason Momoa, was just kind of making that face of like, you know, being those guys like, oh, this is so embarrassing. It's the Ron face when he smiles on Harry Potter. That's the face we made. So yeah, best day ever. And and then stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Can I talk about it? Can I? Yeah, of course I can. I was asked to be Jason Momoa's stand-in for Aquaman 2 when it was filming.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Immediately said yes. Immediately accepted what they offered. Didn't even read when the dates were, when they wanted it. I just said yes first, and I'll worry about anything else later. Unfortunately, I wasn't selected. I do know the man that was selected, and as much as I'm like, yeah, good job, I'm like, fuck, you know. And that's the hard thing, especially if you do a job where everyone looks like me. I'm not going to succeed every time, and when I do, they're going to be like, yeah, good job. They're not really. Everyone hates everyone because they wanted that job. That's why we went for that job. But yeah, it means that there definitely is a chance that I could do some stand-in work, because it would have been cool to be in Aquaman 2. It would have been even cooler to be in Aquaman 2 and to be in Aquaman suit.
Of course.
You know? And it would have been cool to be like, yo, I was that giant fucking freak Game of Thrones idiot from Belfast in 2018. You know, and he'd be like, what? And I'd be like, oh, never mind. Shush. No, I wouldn't have mentioned it. So yeah, it was cool. And obviously with Fast and Furious 10 filming in London, and Jason Momoa tipped to be in it, there's opportunity to maybe, you know, do another bit of stand-in work. But obviously it's not the career choice I'm after. I'm not literally trying to just be wish.com Jason Momoa as much as everyone is thinking he's trying to do that. I'm pale, I'm Irish, I can block, you look at that. I'll never be Hawaiian and I'll never have tattoos. So I'll never really do it. But it's he does the right kind of movies that I am interested in, you know. So it's like, it's always that kind of choice of, yeah, if the longer he stays with long hair and a beard doing stuff, the more people with long hair and beards can be in normal movies. Like if you've seen Sweet Girl, where he plays a father who, you know, gets into some trouble and starts kicking people's asses. It's like that would normally be a Tom Cruise looking dude, not a Jason Momoa looking dude. So it's he's doing much for the men with beard society, you know. And then he shaved it off for Dune, and men with beards got like less attractive for a few months, and it was like, oh, we better hide away because there's no one in our corner anymore.
We gotta wait for Jason to grow it back, man.
Exactly. Then we can go back out into the street. Yeah, so I actually entered a competition as well to win something from his water company, Mananalu, and I won it. So I have
nice.
How do I do this? Well, it's reversed. Is that it? So I won a massive thing, and I won a whole case of water, you know, sustainable water, which I have up here, which you know, it's cool. And they were like, "What part of America are you from?" And I was like, Ireland. And they're like, "Oh, we don't ship to Ireland." And I was like, "All right, ship it to my friend's address, and then they'll ship it to a different friend's address, and then I'll come collect it from this country." And yeah, what a strange thing to bring water across the country.
Yeah. Well, it's anyway. Jason Momoa's water, so I guess it's been
exactly.
It's
well,
it,
yeah,
right?
It's his tears. Yeah. So, Jesus, the whole half an hour on fangirling.
Yeah. If you could play one character on the show, which one would it be and why?
I think it would have been Braun, because I don't have the acting chops of Peter Dinklage. As much as I'd love to be in all those cool scenes he did, as much as I'd love to be Jon Snow, knowing the shit he went through, it just wouldn't be worth it, whether it's in the real world or in the actual show itself. But Braun was always there for cool shit and survived. You know, so
Yeah.
I'm not picking someone who gets completely tortured to. I'm not picking Theon. You know, so it would be more of the Night King.
Night King.
All right.
Yeah, I just love prosthetics. I just love the whole stuff that went into it. And actually, the Sarah and Barry Gower, the prosthetic team, were actually at the opening of the studio tour, and they have their own prosthetic section, and it's insane the amount of work. Like Kai Alexander, who played Leaf, it was 10 hours in the makeup chair, you know, and that's something that is impossible because you can't sleep. Like if I'm putting on prosthetics on your face, I'm constantly touching your face, like constantly. So you're not, unless you can sleep with someone tapping you in the head the whole time, you're not sleeping. You're doing 10 hours of makeup, and then you're doing 10 hours of filming, and then you're getting 4 hours of removal, then you're taking 3 hours off to go to sleep, then you're doing 10 hours of makeup, and it's crazy the work that went into it. And the prosthetics and Thrones are so good. And I was also doing production in Northern Ireland, and they had a prosthetics team, and they had a whole puppeteering team, and the stuff they've done for that movie, unreal. And I actually met the puppeteer who, what's the word? Puppets Grogu.
Oh.
In The Mandalorian. And there was a cool person on the set that day, and I was like, no way. That's like the highest paid actor I've ever seen in my life. But then I was like, there's the guy who fucking controls Baby Yoda. Like, he's the coolest guy on the set. And he had a Mandalorian season 3 t-shirt on, and we were just chatting about Star Wars stuff. And it was like, I'm not even a big fan of Star Wars, but I'll fake it to talk to the dude who has the cutest fucking puppet in his backpack, you know? So yeah, but I'd love to play the Night King because I'm used to non-speaking roles and prosthetics, and they're just cool. I just love being the bad guy and playing with swords and killing people and all that sort of stuff. And I've got a role in a upcoming pilot series where I play 2 characters. I have some preview shots, or at least the production I've showed some preview shots of one of the scenes I did.
It looks amazing.
One of the characters.
What you shared in your story,
man, I was blown away.
It's crazy.
I was blown away because it was just me and a man with a drone, and I was like, holy shit! Because I was expecting, 2008 drone footage, and I was like, that looks like TV. That looks like movie quality. So it's crazy. So the first character is just how I look now, and the second character will be in full prosthetics.
Awesome.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. So it is very cool. And one of the characters, I have to speak in Old Norse, where I channel my inner Khal Drogo voice to pretend I have a rougher, cooler voice than I actually do. So.
Well, he keeps haunting you. He keeps coming back.
Yeah, I know. If only I had the body to pretend to be him in Halloween. I just had to draw fake abs on. But yeah, so no, the Night King, Bronn, I guess. Yeah, that would be it.
Who's your favorite character in Game of Thrones?
See, I don't know, because I think my favorite actor in Game of Thrones is Kit Harington. I know, what a curveball. Yeah, but he wasn't in it when I was in it. You know what I mean? He wasn't. I never got to witness him working or whatever. But watching Kit Harington work, or just being a fan of Jon Snow the whole time, and then being like, "Holy shit, that's Jon Snow!" And when he opens his mouth, that's Jon Snow. That kind of thing. I think it's Jon, and obviously with the ending of the show, when we were filming it, I was like, oh man, I wonder if he does this, because we don't know. We don't get scripts. We just show up on the day, and then someone goes, hey, you're doing this. Cool. They don't go, you're doing this while Jon is coming back to life. You just happen to, like, when he showed up at Battle of the Bastards in normal clothes, and was like, all right, lads. And we're like, oh, guess he's not dead. So it wasn't like a big fanfare and a big announcement like, oh, Jon's back alive. Hey, let's fucking do it. It was like, all right, we got to film this battle half weeks in the rain and the mud So just say hi and then let's get to work. My favorite character, the Hound. But I don't know. I think it's just like, and doing the tours, and I think I've said it before, maybe on the tour, maybe on a different podcast, depending on what country you're from, will determine your favorite character in Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Now I'm interested. I'm from Germany. Who's my favorite character?
Jon Snow.
Jon Snow.
Other than Stannis. You specifically, Stannis, the boys. No, but like I would find, like, let's say South Americans, it's either Daenerys or Arya. Like Asia, like India, it's Arya. I've no statistics for it, but I know from meeting types of people from all around the world. Like Spain, it's Kit. It's Jon Snow. You know, it's Daenerys or Jon Snow. Like Spain is split. Like they haven't decided yet. Scotland, Ireland, England, it's the people who say cunt. It's Bronn. It's the Hound. It's the comedy style of it. It's Davos because he's from Dublin. It's all these things. It's never Joffrey, you know. He's from Dublin. But it was just a thing of going through the characters and seeing and asking. I asked people on the tour, like, oh, who's your favorite character? And I just always found that certain countries would always say the same answer. And I'm curious if it's a cultural thing, you know, that the reason why Irish, English, Scottish and Welsh people really like the Hound and Bronn is because they talk like every person from Ireland and England and Scotland and Wales, you know. They use the C word as a unit of measurement. Yeah. But my favorite, like meeting the Hound in season 8 and him making a Lord of the Rings reference was just like, you know, you forget they're real people. And I forget that Rory McCann probably watched Lord of the Rings and loves Lord of the Rings, but then hearing him talk about it, you're going, holy shit, the Hound likes Lord of the Rings. You know, like you're hearing all this stuff that obviously no one's ever heard before, because we get to go behind the curtain and see these people as normal human beings, whereas as soon as they leave that set, they are then hunted and haunted by absolutely everyone. And I'd say 90% of the cast of Game of Thrones, when they're in the street, are called their Game of Thrones name from far away.
I imagine.
You know, no one gave a shit. No one gives a shit about us. You know, the extras. Maybe Andy gets, you know, shouted at by people in Belfast. But when I was at the studio tour, no one knows. Wait a minute, that's the guy over there. You know, unless I was like, yo, that's me over there, and still they wouldn't care. You know, so it's hearing someone talk about it, about fame being like that scene in Inception where Cobb tells Cillian Murphy's character that he's inside a dream and everybody starts staring at them. Yeah. That's exactly the thing that they go through, you know. So I don't know what the point is of that. Just watch me ramble for hours and hours, you know.
No, it actually brings us to the next questions. What was it like to meet all these actors, all these people on set? Were you nervous at first, or I guess you just realized they're normal people, but there's still gotta be some, like, will it ever be normal that Kit Harington walks by?
No, not at all. Not at all. But only because we're fans. If we weren't fans, then it's just a dude. Like, I've obviously been lucky now to work on the first season of Valhalla, where they have brought in completely new actors. Completely like what Thrones did in season 1. Nobody knew anybody except for the hardcore fans would know, you know, Robert Baratheon from A Knight's Tale. You know, they'd know Sean Bean. They'd know, you know, Ned Stark from James Bond or whatever. Whereas starting in Valhalla, there was none of that kind of, I wouldn't say diva kind of attitude. And there wasn't any of that on Game of Thrones. It was everyone's perception of celebrity assuming that those people will reject whatever they're saying. But I'll ask you guys the questions I ask everybody when I'm on the tour. Kit Harington is beside you right now. What do you say to him? But what do you say to him that doesn't sound like an interview question? And that's the level of, I would love to talk to that person, but the only thing out of my mind or out of my mouth is going to be something I read in the news or watched on YouTube or know in the future about him or her. He doesn't know what I eat for breakfast, but I know what he likes for breakfast because GQ did an article, you know, this kind of thing. Yeah. You are so educated in other people's business when they're at a certain level and they have no idea who you are, and you're about to go, oh, hey man, how was that? Oh, remember that movie? Like, I did a thing, and there was an actor in the thing, and in the crowd, a child said to the actor, oh my God, you're the guy who blah, blah, blah in blah, blah, blah. And that actor went, huh, yeah. And that was 25 years ago for that actor. But for that child, they just watched it recently on Netflix, you know? And it was just like, they will always be that person to that person, you know? And the only thing you talk about, so like when I spoke with Christoph, because I never asked him a question about his movies or life or anything like that, because we were always there, me and Will and a couple of the other guys were always in his scenes. None of us went, bro, after work, selfie. Like, we just did our work. And then at the end of 8, which I'm sure you have the photo, you probably posted the other day, he asked, hey, do you guys want to take a photo with me? And then we go, yeah, of course we do. We're freaking out here, you know? And then when we were there, he, like, Kit Harington walks by and goes, do you guys want me to be in it? I'm like, yeah, of course, you fucking idiot. Like, of course I, you know, but I would never go, hey, Kit, fucking jump in here. He'd be like, who the fuck are you? And I'd be like, I'm the dude. I'm number 52. Remember I stood by in the, you know? So it was that thing of not acting like mega fans gave us opportunities that mega fans would pay 170 euros at a Comic-Con to do. So meeting them is always strange. And it'll never, because we were fans of the show. So you're seeing them as Kit, you're seeing them as Jon Snow, you're seeing them as the scene that we're seeing is for the first time. We're not watching reruns of Game of Thrones. We're watching him step out of Castle Black and he's alive now. So it's like, that's what we're seeing. We're going, oh shit, holy shit. You know, all these little kind of factors are coming into it. And then as the show went on and the show came closer together, like we went for rehearsals and Jorah Mormont was there. And I'd never seen Ian Glenn before in my life. And I'm like, holy shit, it's Jorah Mormont. Holy shit, it's Robert Baratheon's axe. Holy shit, there's a big direwolf on a boat. Like, it's like all of these things. There's a fan could see one thing and be like, that's the coolest thing I ever seen. And we would see these things constantly. Your brain would be overloaded
every day,
with random people showing up and going, holy shit, there's Jaime Lannister. Or watching Lyanna Mormont, like Bella Ramsey, do The King in the North, where she completely buries every professional actor in the room as a 10-year-old. And you're going, that kid would kick the shit out of everyone here. Like, she's such a badass, you know, and then seeing her do it again and like watching all this acting happen. And as a person who tries to be an actor, who has no training, who just shows up and hopes that they want what I give naturally, to see it go, okay, that actor is fucking sick because he went from this to that and then went to lunch and came back and was exactly where he was in the last shot, you know. So it was really, really cool. And just, yeah, it was a strange experience. But then there was always that thing of leave them alone, especially in the last season, because it's their last season as well, you know. If it's the final season at Winterfell, it's the final episode at Winterfell, it's the funeral at Winterfell, they are saying goodbye to Alfie Allen, you know. Definitely. And then I'm not going to knock over and go, Theon, mate, loved you, you know, hope good luck with John Wick, you know, because that's the only sentence I know to talk to about, like, yeah, I really like your sister's music, or I really like your cousin, you know, like, what the fuck do you say? Yeah, you enjoy, like, and what I noticed with the pandemic is it's global, it's universal, it's something to be like, yo, COVID tests are a bitch, aren't they? And it's a natural human thing that they're not allowed to see their family, like you're not allowed to see your family. You got to wear a mask for 16 hours like I do. There was no hierarchy with the pandemic. There wasn't like, well, he's not affected by it because he's a famous actor. We're all in this shit together. And they were then kept caged even longer, because if the actor gets COVID, the show shuts down for 2 weeks. If I get COVID, they just get some other dude who looks like Jesus in to fill in my boots. So yeah, it never wore off. And even at the studio tour, they had Christian Narn, who played Hodor, and Isaac Hempstead, right?
Yeah, Isaac
Yeah,
Hempstead, right.
correct. And Masande, Natalie Emmanuel there. And I've never met Hodor, and I never met Masande. Actually, I did, but I never was that close to them. And obviously, working on the show, there was not a single point at that studio tour I was going to walk over and go, "All right, Bran, remember me from Battle of Winterfell?" You know, like there was not. It would have been meeting them for the first time and then mention, yeah, I did work on the show, and then mention when I did it, and then, you know, there's all processes, but the first process is just don't go over to them, because they're here to do a job and they're busy learning lines, and you're just here in a fucking costume dicking about. So it never wore off, and it never will wear off, I guess. You know, maybe 10 years from now. Like I got availability checks to work on the Witcher series, the one that Christoph Hibju was in. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I got a job and he was there, would he remember me? And it's just like, well, he's met 10 billion people since season 8 is finished, so probably not, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas we, like all the extras, would remember them, you know, unless they shared something. And but yeah, obviously Andy with the documentary, like he has the perfect time capsule of his time on Game of Thrones, and I have always said it, that he's the one that deserved it, and no one else should have had this kind of thing, like, because he literally gave up everything for it and gave everything for it. He
lives and breathes it, man. Whenever you talk to him, it's just fun to see how he talks about it, how fond he is about that whole experience. It's always awesome to listen to a guy who's passionate about something, and especially with him, he's just a cool guy that loves Game of Thrones, loves doing that for whatever many hours. He would do literally anything.
Yeah, no, like it's funny because obviously when it was kind of visibly, you know, shown on set that now he has a camera crew following him around, there you will get the people that are like, well, why is it him? And you turn around and go, because that cunt was here 4 a.m. yesterday cleaning your boots.
That's a pity.
You know, when you were in a hostel, not coming to work because it's -15 and you don't want to get your boots wet because it's wet out, or you don't want to do tomorrow's scene because it's raining, and he's in there in the shit and his morale is 150%. Like, he doesn't even drink caffeine. Like, he's just always there. So there was always, though, like, and a couple of guys that were there, and I would hope that I was also one of them too, that the morale was always there. There was never any negativity. Even if it was shit, just never, you know, don't sell it, as they say in the WWE and F era. Just don't sell it. Don't sell that you're having a bad time, because it'll make other people think, oh yeah, we are having a bad time. Oh, it is a bad time. You know, if you just stay hyped, they'll be like, all right, well, how's he having fun? Okay, I'll hang out with these guys. What are you guys doing? Oh, we're just, you know, chatting about stupid shit because it's 4 a.m. We haven't slept. And once the person in your group who isn't funny is suddenly funny, you need to go to sleep, you know, this kind of thing. So yeah, George is gone,
but
he couldn't handle it. I told him some spoilers and they took him out.
Yeah, he basically told us what is going to happen in House of the Dragon. Definitely gonna cut that out. Sorry, bro.
Well, this is the thing. So it's like, no, you can keep it in, because I've never worked there and I actually don't know anything about it. It's the first Game of Thrones thing I'm actually going to watch as a fan without knowing anything. So to me, I can't wait to say it was too dark in that episode. I'm gonna rip that place to shreds. You know, I hope there's no fucking bottles of water in the background. You know, because I'll be the first one there making memes. No, I know nothing, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to it, obviously.
Same here. Same here.
And I know nothing of the story because, as I said to you and George at the start, probably off podcast. I've never read the Game of Thrones books, and I know this is a very book heavy fan base, and then they're immediately going to go, get rid of this guy. You know?
Oh no. I think it's interesting to hear perspectives from people who only watch the show. It's what I'm going to do with Lord of the Rings now. Like, I don't know jack shit about that whole universe, and it's all There's so much backstory to it, and I think it's fascinating, and I think I will read it one day. But when the Lord of the Rings show comes out, I'm just gonna talk about these episodes. Like, yeah, that guy was pretty cool. Like the dialogue on that character, can see he's a cool. He has cool development going on, but it's like just it's cool to be casual. I don't know what it is. Why people just act like being a casual fan is a bad thing, you know, or not knowing
for sure
stuff.
Like it definitely helps, let's say, with the show, and you'll know from the books that there's stuff that happens differently in the books than does in the show. And there could be, you could read that book and that book could be really sentimental to you, and that scene could resonate with you, and then all of a sudden they change that character and you go, fuck this show, because that's your attachment. And when it comes to this Lord of the Rings series or House of the Dragon, I've no idea. And if they've suddenly changed the sex or the race of this character, I won't even know until someone tells me.
Yeah.
And that's why being a casual fan is much better than being maybe being an obsessive fan of a certain thing. Let's say if you take Star Wars, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, when they start doing fan service, like I watched the most recent episode where loads of cool shit happened. And to me, I was like, I bet a big Star Wars fan is losing their minds right now of how good that deep fake looks.
You're talking to him.
And I'm like, that is so cool. And then you're watching this and they're doing flashbacks with, I don't want to spoil it, but with the thing, and it's flashing back to a thing that I know nothing about, and I'm going, wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
I know what it's about, but it wasn't something I'm not a big fan, or I would be a casual fan now. And I watched Rogue One for the first time in 2020, and it's really good.
Oh yeah.
And maybe in 6 months' time, I'll explain to everyone listening to this why I watched Rogue One for the first time in 2020.
Well, you are definitely invited. You can join us whenever. If you feel like talking about it in 6 months, let's say, for some reason, then I'd be up for it.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I've already got a cease and desist, which I'll talk about, which is hilarious at some point. And it's always, I'm forever in an NDA world, and there won't be a point. And that's the thing with Game of Thrones, is there was never a point where I could talk about it until it was over. So I could never experience what the fans experienced, because we already knew it would happen, and then it had happened, So there was no, like, watching Battle of the Bastards. Yeah, we knew how it ended. So when I'm in the crowd and I'm watching Jon getting crushed to death, which we all did, which they really crushed us. That's how you make 300 people act like they're being crushed. They just crushed us. Boom. Acting, Daniel Day-Lewis, get out of my way. So being a casual fan is so strange, and I can't wait for House of the Dragon.
Oh, same.
Because no idea. When I hear like the Lord of the Rings TV series now spent $53 million per episode, that is 4 times more than what Game of Thrones spent per episode. And obviously money isn't the thing, but the thing is the thing that Amazon have gone, here's 50 million each. So we are so confident that we're going to make our 50 million back, that do whatever you want, so. And the Lord of the Rings has moved production and has moved closer to where I live. So hopefully you'll be the first to know, legally, when it's time, not just randomly. So yeah, I'm definitely going to give it a shot, see if they can make me an Ent or Ents in it,
or an orc.
I don't know.
Or an orc. You're doing some voice acting on the orc.
Yeah, I did a training course, a stunt, like a stage combat, a screen combat course with a stunt performer from the new Lord of the Rings series. So we did a character workshop where I got to pretend to be an orc and pretend to be an elf and pretend to be a dwarf and do flips and do mats and fight with swords and do orc noises and orc characteristics. And it's coming from the mind of a person that experienced it right now, like in this show. So slowly getting there, you know, dress for the job you want, you know, so surround yourself with other orcs. And the people in the class, they are all mega Lord of the Rings fans, and they're also on the same journey of we all want to be in the new Lord of the Rings show. And one of the students is a voice actress, and she has been in some of the coolest games ever, just using her voice, just, you know, and she didn't tell anybody or give off any of that energy. She's just in them. And it's like, that's the dream, just to, you know, do. So she'd be the first one. I'd be like, yeah, put her in Lord of the Rings. She sounds exactly like whoever, you know, put that one in Lord of the Rings. She looks exactly like an elf. If I had a casting, put me in Lord of the Rings, please. I'll shave my beard. It's the only thing I'd shave my beard for.
Lord of the Rings.
You know, for sure. If they said you can be an orc, I'll say, get the razor. Let's do it, you know. Because prosthetics, unfortunately, don't fit on the beard. There's only this much prosthetic room to use, you know. So, and full silicone masks, you would suffocate inside, you know. It's very claustrophobic. So it wouldn't be a very cool experience. It wouldn't be a nice 17-hour day if they're trying to do some sort of Helm's Deep level battle and you have to wear plastic masks over your face for the whole time. You know, it would be pretty bad.
Many people don't know it, but the Wildlings once took over the airport in Belfast. How did the people react that day? How was it in the airport? The clip went viral.
Yeah, it was on Lad Bible. It was on Tourism NI as well. I thought you were going to say many people didn't know the Wildlings once took over, and then you were going to mention some sort of book reference, and I was just about to go. Yeah, so the rehearsals of season 8, we were told some stuff, and then we got a call, myself, and so 2 Wildlings, 2 Unsullied, and 2 Night's Watch were chosen to go to the airport. We had gone in to do some filming or do some setups or something, and when we got there, our costume had a green sticker on it that said airport, and I was like, oh my fuck, because we heard rumors, and a lot of the crew would be like, oh well, we're going to Iceland next month, and I was like, airport, does that mean we're going to, you know, like everything goes through your head, like, holy shit, we're about to go to Spain or to Croatia. Oh, that means we're going to King's Landing. The Wildlings are going to King's Landing, but there's only a few of us. What if, you know, all this stuff starts going through your head. But we were sent to do a promotion for season 7's DVD release. So if you type into Facebook, Wildlings Takeover Airport, you will see myself and William, which is obviously one of the things that goes throughout season 8 and throughout this podcast is I was lucky enough to spend the whole filming sequence with one of my best friends and one of the best people on Game of Thrones. We met in season 6 at Battle of the Bastards and instantly like just clicked, like we have the same attitude, work hard on the show and the same kind of future ideas. So to spend season 8 doing all the filming with him and then to do this airport thing with him, and the 2 Wildlings and the 2 Unsullieds and the 2 Unsullied guys, one of them, another friend of mine that I stayed with a lot. And the other guy, his name is Miguel. And if you ever want to have Miguel on your podcast, he is the nicest man on the planet. His mother is French or Spanish, and his father is the other one. So whatever, one of them is French, one of them is Spanish. So his general speaking English is exactly the Unsullied accent from Game of Thrones. So we would just be like, Miguel, can you please say, I only fight for Daenerys? Or, you know,
yeah.
We would just, you know, and because he's such a big fan, he'd be like, of course, you know. But him and his girlfriend, Marzenka, they got engaged on the set of Game of Thrones.
Oh, I think I've heard the story before. I think I've seen something. Right.
Yeah. Don't know where it is. It might be on something, and I obviously don't want to ruin the story, but they're the cutest couple in the world. And they both now work on the studio tour. So he gets to tell his lovely I met Jason Momoa story, but it just happens to be getting engaged to his girlfriend. You know, not as cool as my story. Every day to people that come by. So we went to the airport and there was just no rules. There was the plan they had to put us onto a forklift, like a cherry picker thing, like me and Will, like 2 Wildlings, and we were holding the sign like this House of the Stag sign. Imagine we're holding it, and it said, "Welcome to Westeros" instead of "Welcome to Belfast." But obviously, I'm not insured to go in a cherry picker. Will's not insured to go in a cherry picker. They just assumed that, well, if we say yes, it's fine, but the costumes aren't insured to go in a cherry picker. If they rip the costumes, that's ripping HBO property. There's all these hoops to jump through, and nobody was the one that goes, yeah, it's fine. Everyone was going, oh, we better not do that. So they just said, lads, do whatever you want. So, of course, me and 2 of my friends and 3 other guys that I knew very well were like, okay, let's smash up this airport. So it was that thing of, as we went through, we were walking around, nobody was notified. Nobody in the airport was told, oh, hey, some people from Game of Thrones are coming. Like, the first step was just being there and people going, can we get photos? And going, yeah. And that was it. Kind of started off slow, you know. And then we realized that we could do whatever we want. And there was a group of lads got off the plane, and, you know, you got all your documents and passports, and just walked by and just fucked all this guy's documents all over the place and just kept walking, because, you know, I'm a big dude. I'm wearing the bones of children all over my costume, and all of his mates are laughing at him. So he's not going to retaliate. And there's 2 unsullied soldiers and another crazy wildling beside him. We would then walk through, we would like pick up people's fucking luggage and just throw it away, you know, like run away with people's stuff, pick up people's pick up people's girlfriends, just do whatever we could with consent, and do whatever we want. And then Lad Bible, he did it. The guy from Lad Bible came through with a camera, and he just didn't say a word. He just filmed us in our natural habitat. They'd hire a photographer, and it was kind of, moments were happening. Like, a little kid got off a plane and high-fived the Unsullied, and the photographer would be like, oh, could you do that again? Like, that's not natural, you know? So it was a little bit of a balance of, like, what's natural and what's staged. And the last thing we want is to be staged, because it's just awkward. As much as we stage a show, it doesn't feel natural to go, hey, do you mind if I do this and this again? And this guy's just got off a plane. He's got to go through customs now. Like, he's not going, let me just...
Which reminds me of a story Dean Jagger once told me. He talked about how he did this like huge war cry with you guys, with the extras. And the people behind the camera actually wanted him to redo it so they could have it on camera, because they didn't catch it. But he refused it, and he said that it was natural, and it was something that you guys and him were sharing, something that was special to you. And
it's he's right. Like, and it comes off as in the camera, like, when you watch the video, if you guys are going to watch it, you'll see some stuff and you'll think, oh, well, that looks staged. But, like, Miguel really did sit down beside 2 nuns and start talking to them, because it's just a funny visual. An Unsullied sitting beside 2 nuns. The 2 Night's Watch guys are inside the little toy cars that you put kids in, and you put like a dollar in, and they'll move back and forth. I was picking up people's luggage and just trashing the place. I went into a shop and just grabbed a beer and just popped it off the table and just walked off. And they just didn't react. And I didn't say anything, because they're like, what the fuck is going on? And now I'm just standing with a beer, like, what do I do with this? I don't want to drink it. Am I allowed to drink this? I'm at work. You know, there was so we did all these things, and then it was that thing of, okay, let's go outside. You know, let's go through this emergency exit door. And me and Will and Remy, so the Unsullied and 2 wildlings, we went outside onto the tarmac, which you're definitely not allowed to do. But we were just unstoppable. And then the people came out after us, and they were like, okay, we'll do a little photo shoot here. And we were being looked after by an assistant director named Bentley. And luckily she was there, because we weren't, like, we were out in the public. We couldn't take photos. All our phones had stickers on them, you know, which was strange, because everyone could take photos. Yeah. Except for us, which is, I'm sure there's some sort of rules. I didn't want to ask any questions, didn't want to lose any job. Obviously, the great opportunity they gave us. But she was taking photos for us. So we obviously have some cool footage. She had a nice thing where Will slides down the banisters of the airport and just falls over. It's brilliant. It's not in the thing because the guys weren't there. But we ended up on the tarmac, and then they're taking some promo photos, and then a plane lands, and we decide to just get into the plane. We just, you know, which there was just no rules. There was no like, okay, now we're going to do the plane shot. There was literally the 3 lads storming a plane, storming the cockpit, the pilot freaking out, but going, I fucking love Game of Thrones. Come on in, lads. And then we end up sitting in the cockpit, taking some photos, and then just kind of doing that. And then the video came out, and it was kind of strange because it would have been the first time kind of that sort of content, like viral content, I was involved in, where people were like commenting, this is the shittest thing ever, or this is the best thing ever, or, that kind of thing where you're like, I better not read these comments,
Yeah.
Because it's never focused on us, it's always, oh, that scene's shit because of XYZ. It's never that scene is shit because of this dude in the background. So it was the first time, and it was really obviously a really fun time and a really good video. But it seemed to be a success. And like in our minds, when we first were there, we were like, well, where's the DVDs? Like, where's the stand to show that we're promoting these DVDs? And nothing was really ready. So we just kind of completely winged it, and it worked out perfectly. And I know the guy from Lad Bible was like, lads, that was perfect. And they went on to make this video, where I know that the tourism part of Northern Ireland just uploaded photographs, like stills. The stills were amazing. And it was the same thing, this whole natural, me and Will and Remy are standing outside the airport, and the guy's taking a photo, and we're standing there because we know these photos are going places. We're doing our faces. You all have it. Everyone has that face they do. The face they know looks all right in a photo. And I'm doing the face. And then he goes, okay, now guys, growl. And we're like, nah.
Fuck?
But it's like kind of like roar, like shout, because what you'll find with anything is he's there as a photographer. He's not there as a Game of Thrones fan who's also a photographer. He has no idea that we're wildlings and that's an Unsullied. He just goes, lads with beard, man with helmet, can you guys do whatever?
Go brr.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. And then like the two lads are like, yeah, we're definitely not doing it. I was like, right, I'll do one. And I did it. And then that's the photo they used. And I'm like, fuck, it's like he knew what he was doing,
But did they at least send you the other ones?
Oh yeah, we have them all. Like he sent us the link to everything. I have them somewhere. They're on my Google Drive somewhere. But I was like, oh, that's the one that's in the newspaper. I was like, fuckers, because now they think I was cheering, and I was having a good time, but I didn't want to cheer. But yeah, it was really, really cool. And then it was that thing of like, oh, I wonder what else is happening. Like, what can we do for season 8? Like, what's hearing all these things of what's happening, like in season 6 or season 7, the start of season 7 in London, they started to freeze all of the fountains, and they had like in case of White Walkers break glass just put up randomly, so they do all these little things, like kind of real world marketing, which was perfect for the show. And we were hoping like, oh, what's the next thing we do? And obviously once we'd gone past that stage of, we were the first people, I think, I don't know, don't quote me, to ever be outside of the set in full costume, Probably. So that's something that sticks with us, like, because there would be no point. There's no actors ever gone inside, obviously, unless they do major events. If they've done major events in London, they're not using the costumes from the show. They're using rented stuff from places that have costumes. They're not, so it was really, really cool. And it's that thing of I have a whole archive of stuff. And it's funny because now I'm actually at home. I have a bag with stuff from Game of Thrones in it. Not like stuff I stole, but like stuff that's relevant to me. And I could take some stuff out and you'd be like, what's that? And I'd be like, oh, that's a stick. And you'd be like, what's that from? Oh, it's from this scene. And you'd be like, oh, okay. Like a non-important scene to the show. But to me, that was a day that I'll never forget,
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. I have like my wristband from the Game of Thrones rap party. I have a Guinness that's for Jason Momoa. It's a very special Guinness. One of the extras worked, or still works probably, in the Guinness factory and brought me a special edition can. They've only made like 50 of them. And I've got one in there. It's completely gone off now, and I just want Jason Momoa to sign it. So it'll be that thing of giving it to him and hoping he doesn't drink the thing because he'll be dead. Or maybe it'll be full of alcohol. It'll be the best drink he's ever had. I've got some bones from my shirt that just fell off during the long night. And I was like, please, can I have these? And they're like, yeah, we don't give a shit. And I'm like so sentimental to it, you know. So what else is there? There's horsehair from Tormund's horse from the last scene of the show. There is just stuff. I don't know what to say. I don't know what else is there. There's other stuff there, but that'll never be said. And it's not in my house, in case you're looking.
Oh, okay.
It's in a vault somewhere, stored somewhere else, you know. But yeah, no. So that's obviously the airport photos, and that's like, you know, George asking me about how did I get into acting. Like, I obviously never trained, and using Game of Thrones, being in Game of Thrones, even as an extra, has opened so many doors to me, for me, without a CV, without a single acting role where I actually opened my mouth. I've gotten opportunities just because I was on Game of Thrones, you know, that kind of thing. So forever grateful. And meeting people who've worked on House of the Dragon, and they say, oh, I'm working on Game of Thrones. Like, oh, cool. Yeah, I did some work on that too. And they go, oh, yeah, which bit? It's like, no, like the original one.
Oh.
And they go, oh, the old one. And then I go, oh, you know, because it is the old one. It's the first one. It's the first appearance. It's the first edition. It's the OG, you know, and it's really funny to hear it like, you know, oh, yeah, shit. It's so many years ago now, you know, and that's kind of when I went to the studio was like, oh, shit. Like the last time I was in this studio was 2017. And that's not 3 years ago anymore.
That's true.
As much as it feels like
time flies, bro. Time flies. It's crazy.
Yeah, so and seeing the throne room, and actually you'll know from my Instagram, like I got a chance to sit on the real Iron Throne. And me and Will, you know, as I said, completely through season 8, me, Will, his brothers, and my friend Remy, we had a chance to sit on the Iron Throne. We were brought around. We were shown King's Landing. We were shown the throne before they started filming season 8. So technically, possibly, we were the last people to sit on the throne before it was melted, you know, because they literally said, you guys have to get out. We're about to do something. And I was like, oh shit, wonder what they're going to do, you know? So yeah.
Which brings me to my
Told you.
Oh, it's which brings me to a different question. I think we've talked about it before, at least privately. The funeral scene in which you hands Tormund the torch for him to burn these at the pyre.
Yeah.
It's the last scene of a lot of Game of Thrones actors, and it was quite emotional for you as well. Take us through that whole process. How was that?
And even now, going, oh, now I have to talk about that sad thing. It's like the parts of my body are going, all right, let's start fucking up his throat. Let's start welling up his eyes. Yeah, it was that thing, as I told you guys at the start of the feast scene, like David Nutter remembered my name, and without him I wouldn't have been given that opportunity to have a shot like that. And obviously it's a split second of footage, but to me that's the best photo I have on Game of Thrones.
I was so happy when I watched it. I was so happy for you. I was
me too, bro.
I know him. Yeah, I know that guy. just been talking to him.
So I heard like, oh, hey, we're doing a thing with some fire, so you guys have to go get some fire training. So I went there and I did the thing with Sam, the VFX and stunt, the fire coordinator. I can't remember what his official title is, probably VFX supervisor. And we did a thing where we passed the torch to each other, then it's on fire, we pass it back and forth. And he was choosing his people, like this guy's safe to work with. I trust him. And the guy that I was given was dangerous. So meaning that our group was dangerous. So I didn't even pass the fucking safety level. But I was the only wildling at the class. So I had to do it. And I'm obviously not dangerous. It was just that thing of, the guy I was handing it to was texting and holding the flame at the same time. Like he was, that. So I ended up being the Wildling torchbearer. And when you guys go back to watch the scene, that is the final sequence at Winterfell. The final shot that ever was shot at Winterfell for such a large amount of people. We then shot a few days, maybe 10 days later, the scene where Jon says goodbye to Sam. And that was just 4 wildlings, a couple of villagers, Sam, Gilly, and Jon. But everyone else that day, it was their last day. So it was Theon's last day. It was Lyanna Mormont's last day. It was Sansa Stark's last day at Winterfell. It was Jorah Mormont's last day on Game of Thrones. It was, Missandei, like every cast member is there. So when that's a series wrap, or whatever the terminology they use, he's never coming back to Game of Thrones on Alfie Allen. I never met him, never worked with him, did a couple of days on season 8 with him, never interact with him, except when someone kind of like looped us into a conversation. But when he starts to say goodbye, it's like, when they gave Ian Glenn that microphone to say goodbye of 10 years of Game of Thrones, never did a single scene with him. But I know the weight in that microphone, that when he's saying these words, he's really saying goodbye. And they can be the richest people on the planet, but time, all of those actors, maybe they were best friends. They're busy. They all went on to do other things. And let's say one person went off and got married and had kids, and the other person went to LA to do movies, and the other person stayed at home. They'll probably never see each other until they do a year's reunion of Game of Thrones and that sort of stuff. So when they were saying goodbye, they were really saying goodbye. And to be around that emotion was, contagious. But obviously for us, it was also, we were also really emotional.
Of course.
And the scene itself is a funeral. Like, it was literally, it was like, pile on this lasagna of fucking sadness on top of all these people, So they set up the scene. It's all real fire, and they played music as well at the funeral. Like at funerals that people go to, it's always the music that gets me, because it's literally the choice of the last music you hear before, the inevitable sad part of it. And then they played music, and I'm a mess. I'm a goddamn mess. And I got a feature, and it was not hard to be emotional, and it wasn't hard. Like, that's the thing. Didn't need to act, because I was a fucking wreck. We'd just done a load of filming for weeks and weeks. Everyone was exhausted. So, after having a hangover, you kind of have a different emotional state. Maybe you're not drinking hard enough if you don't. But it was really easy to be emotionally destroyed at it. And David Nutter came up and was asking all the wildlings, like, how long have you worked here? And literally going to people like, okay, cool. Okay, a few days. Thanks for coming. I just started in season 8. Well, you were amazing. Thank you very much. I started in season 6. I'm actually here since season 1. And then he just turned to all the wildlings, or the section of people he was filming. Let's say it's A camera, B camera, C camera, whatever he's doing. And he's like, okay, guys, here's how you need to feel. And he literally would just break people's spirits, but in the constructive director way, that everyone isn't thinking about sadness and trying to cry. He was trying to get pride across. Like, you should be so proud of yourselves, of how much work you've put in. And obviously everyone then is like, and you're hearing that today is the last day for the Dothraki guys, or, all this sort of stuff. And then it came to like my scene with Kristoff, and it's literally just handing a dude a torch, but it's so complicated. I'm on fire. There's a fire here, and there's 3 cameras, and one camera's going, yo, hold it here. And then the other camera's going, no, put it here. Like, put it here. And I'm going, and the VFX guy's going, get that fucking thing away from your face. And I'm going like that. And then C camera's going, no, put it back. That kind of thing. And all of it's kicking off. And hearing David Nutter say, because what they were doing is they were filming the torchbearers, and then the camera was following the actors to the pyres. And hearing David Nutter say, we're going to stay on the Wildlings, we're going to stay on Eric, we're going to stay on the Heart, like the Wildlings were the bad guys in the first episode, in the first few seasons, until you realize they're the actual good guys. They never did anything bad. So he was like, let's stay with these guys. So now I have 3 cameras staring at me, and it's me, and 1 billion people are going to watch this or something.
Yeah.
Like, so when I start to cry, it just happened, like, because I'm like, fuck, and all my friends who are extras are lying on that body pile, so it's a weird thing, but it was cool. And he said some stuff to me, and if I try to repeat it, I'll just cry, so I won't. I'll just send it in text. It'll be up on the YouTube captions. It'll just come up, here's what he said, because I don't know, I just can't talk about it. And even though it's been whatever years, 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 5 years at least, it's still like a wound, not a wound, but like it's a part, like, choke you up.
Well, man, it only makes sense, all the experiences you shared with your friends, your people. You were like family. You had so many moments together. That's something that is deservedly to be cherished, man. That's forever. No one will ever take it away from you.
It's funny because, like, it's the hearing, like, getting something from David Benioff and Dan Weiss, like a little message basically saying, here's what you guys have done for us, and no matter how hard you've worked and what you've done, when this releases, season 6, season 7, season 8, season 1, season 2, nobody gives a shit about what you did. They only care about the final product of their show, like of what they experience watching Game of Thrones. So when we spent 11 weeks doing night shoots for episode 3, and we're hearing it's the biggest battle since Helm's Deep, and we're running at 150% for 9 weeks straight, or 55 nights in the dark, and there's a massive snowstorm called the Beast in the East, and it's minus 15 wind chill, and you're running, and if you get injured, you're replaced because we can't stop, So I was running with torn absolutely everything's, and when they call cut, I'm dead. And then when they call action, I'm the fastest kid alive. And then when they call cut, I'm dead. And you guys will know this very well. When Stannis is dying against the tree, and he makes that noise, he just goes like...
I'm sorry, I'm such a nerd.
That's the noise I made every time they called cut. Every time. I'd be like...
Oh, that was actually kind of close.
Yeah, it's my noise. They used it. So it was that thing of, I know if I get injured, they'll just find a different person to fit the costume. Dead men don't need their boots, sort of thing. So we were all running on fucking empty, and that's why it was so kind of, when the episode drops and you've given everything, and I'm just a dude in the background of 700 people, and they go, it's a bit dark. And I go, but my legs, I hurt my legs. There's a veil over there with a sore back, and his back will be sore forever because he gave all of this work. But it's a bit dark, and it's like, oh. And if it was if season 8 was the best thing ever made, Andy would be in Comic-Con forever. He'd be trapped like Woody in Toy Story 2. He'd just be, and it's a strange thing. And obviously, as the years go by, I think people are expecting actors to come out and say, yeah, we knew this and we tried to fight it.
People thrive off negativity, and it's especially with all these mediums. Like I obviously, like I'm for real. I have my own problems with how the story ended, and I'm a book nerd. Like, in my opinion, they did my boy Stannis dirty. But the way, just gotta be honest here. But the way the train rolled, the bandwagon, everyone was jumping on. I think just the way the internet works. Like, I've seen random YouTubers that normally don't even do series reviews or anything talk about it all of a sudden. You can make a
Yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
money doing
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah. Of course.
that's sort of like, it
So
was
yeah,
cool.
and like obviously you have to be. There's some points, yeah, of course. They're right about this and right about that, you know. And like I would never be the person that defends the show because I don't need to defend it because I'm fine, you know. Like it didn't. I would never go into the comment section and be like, well, here's why they did that, and this is why, and you should feel like this because this is, you know, how they feel. What I do say is the perception of stuff like that. Like, let's say you take Dave and Dan, and all the scripts that I've seen and I've been savvy to were always written in a way that it's them talking to their friends, as in John, looking very pretty, enters the room.
Yeah.
And then when, let's say, season 8, episode 6 script come out, and someone reads that for the first time and goes, well, they didn't even care. They're writing stupid jokes in the middle of it. But it was always like that. That's the platform they fuck around, you know. So it's that thing of like, I don't want to be like, oh no, they're amazing or that, whatever. They came up with an idea in 2015, 2016, and then they said, right, we'll play this story out and see how it goes. And if it was successful, then they're geniuses. But if it's not successful, they ruined everything. And even now, Game of Thrones Studio is open. In the comment section, they'll be like, well, they fucking ruined season 8.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, but you're gonna come see the studio? You know, it's they don't care. You know, like nobody cares anymore. You know, so it will be interesting to, you know, when House of the Dragon hits season 1, it's going to be incredible, and you're going to hear, oh, they better not ruin it.
And it's gonna become attractive once again to make content that is focused on shitting on it for sure. Like. I can already see all those thumbnails with those arrows and circles. Like, they did this again. Did they fuck it up again? Like it's just attractive to shit on it. But I actually believe that House of the Dragon has a big chance to become even better than Game of Thrones was. And I'm sorry to say that.
Sorry, mate.
Because
I'm sad now. I'm gonna throw all my stuff in the bin. You know.
Just for the reason that there's even more characters that do sketchy stuff lined up against each other, and that's just a personal
and I guess
preference that I love it when it's very morally gray and you struggle with yourself. You don't really know if you root for anyone, and I don't really think you should root for anyone in this show. Actually, that's what's gonna make it interesting.
And I guess because it's set so far away, or set in the past, they have a past and a present and a future that doesn't end up to Game of Thrones, meaning they have an ending, which that's what people will, you know, ultimately go, perfect. They can't fuck this one up.
It's gonna be interesting because it's
but it's not even that.
It's very
okay. Why don't we change that? They're like, whoa, don't change it.
It's gonna be
like. I always talk about when people ask me about season 8 and how did I feel about it and all that sort of stuff. I always talk about Rian Johnson, you know, the guy who made the new Star Wars, and it's like, you know, he's the guy that made the best episode of Breaking Bad, and I love that because when he made the best episode of Breaking Bad, they were like, this guy's amazing, and when he made a couple of decisions for Star Wars, like, who the fuck let this guy do Star Wars? It's like, well, that's the guy from Breaking Bad, you know, that's the guy you were praising, you know, 2 years ago. And I love Lost, the TV show, which also ended on a controversial note. And Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof, who were the Dave and Dan of the past, got completely shit on the whole time for, you know, any time they did anything. It's like, those are the guys that ruined Lost. And they then went on to just be quiet. And they've produced some of the best TV since. But because they weren't the forefront, they were never, you know, like Watchmen, the TV series, which is probably HBO's. Is it HBO?
I think so. I've never seen an episode.
Yeah, me neither. But I know it's pretty fucking successful. Was done by Damon Lindelof, you know. So it's like, just don't just kind of gonna be back here, and then if I'm not on the screen, if I don't come up in the credits at the start, I come up at the end. No one will know, you know. So it'll be interesting to see House of the Dragon and see when people realize that, you know, let's say if you take George R. R. Martin, the man is a busy man. And I know when I have a homework assignment, the last thing I'm doing is my fucking homework assignment. Yeah, of course I want to play football for 3.5 hours. I don't want to finish my book, you know. So do you think he's going to finish the book series?
No, but I think he's gonna finish Winds of Winter. But A Dream of Spring, man, there's been there's guys that think he will finish it because Winds of Winter he really wrote himself into a corner, and he's been in a similar situation with A Clash of Kings, the second book, and then A Storm of Swords came out, and it was like action, 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 action. The same thing could happen with A Dream of Spring, but it's been 10 years, and I'm not a sweet summer child anymore. I'm fine with whatever happens. His books opened the door for a future Game of Thrones universe, and there's so many stories. Like, I want to have a Dunk and Egg story, a Dunk and Egg prequel. It's like it would be my dream. That's a dream come true for me if that ever happens. It's basically Westeros Mandalorian. It's Baby Yoda and and Barristan Selmy.
You're selling it perfect to the internet. Yeah. No, like it's that thing of, I'm curious. You know, I would always fuck with people on the tour. Like, yeah, he has them both written. He's just waiting. You know, he's dropping them. He doesn't know when to drop them. If I was him, I'd drop them about a month before House of the Dragon dropped, so the hype is so high, you know, or at least let's say maybe after. So catch them on a high, you know.
That's the thing. Could have done that with season 8, didn't he?
He could have, but then it's that thing of, I guess people are hoping that, you know, it's that thing of the books. George will do it. George will make it right, you know. And he knows, as you said, he wrote himself into a corner. Like, he can write that there's 4,000 war elephants, and then go, actually, there's 3,900. But when Dave and Dan try and put an elephant in a show, it's against animal cruelty laws. You know, so it's like, or if you try and make, you know, 2,000 mumma kill, you can ask Peter Jackson how much that cost him. You know, so it's like, it's kind of a book and a show is so Amazon are the only people with the billions to make whatever, you know. So
it's all about context, really, and a lot of people forget it. They don't care as long as it makes headlines or but maybe their life is just boring. It's just the way it is, man. The next question, we kind of touched on it already, but you've also been doing a lot of Vikings for a long time now, and how does working on Vikings compare to working on Game of Thrones? Like, not in a what is better kind of sense, just the general. What is a day in the life of working on Vikings?
It's a lot more laid back because how production would work on Game of Thrones and how they'd work on Vikings would be so different, because they'd have a director for like a thing called a block, where it could be a full block of, you know, he has or she has 60 days of filming to do 2 episodes. If they want to do a 4-week battle, they can. If we are filming and it starts to rain and they go, oh, we'll just come back tomorrow. Whereas on Game of Thrones, like, we have this window for this window, and we have to film this right now, because if you push tomorrow to tomorrow, that's going to, you know, domino affect absolutely everything, because they're shooting in 5 different countries at the same time. Vikings is shooting in 1 country. And I would describe the filming of Vikings like a sitcom, like a as in,
that's interesting.
There was only, I don't mean the content, I mean if you watch Friends, they're either in the apartment, their other apartment, the coffee shop, or a new place for the day. Whereas Vikings is like, you're either in Kattegat, you're on a boat, you're at a war, or you're coming back from war. Sure. You know? So it's like, it was never kind of walking in there and seeing something new. I mean, you were seeing stuff new, but it wasn't like walking onto the set of Battle of the Bastards and seeing 350 people on the other side and Ramsay Bolton and 80 horses and going, holy fuck, this is about to go off. And then the next day you see Littlefinger get killed and you're like, oh, you know, where I could see a main character get killed on Vikings, and I wasn't emotionally attached to them as much as I was to Game of Thrones, because I was a fan of Game of Thrones before getting into the show, and I never heard of Vikings before getting into Vikings. But I did obviously watch it, and now I am a fan of the show, and emotionally attached to each one of them, but more on the Game of Thrones side. Budget-wise, obviously Vikings is the History Channel, and the History Channel doesn't make much money, I imagine. Now that they sold it to Amazon, in season 5 and season 6, the budget went higher, meaning there was more sets, there was more set pieces, there was bigger scales. Netflix will be Valhalla will be Netflix, which they have a whole money pit. So it'll be that thing of we immediately started Valhalla like season 6 of Vikings, so it's already up there. If they wanted to do something big, they could. It wasn't, oh, we'd like to do the Battle of Blackwater, or we'd like to do the battle, you know, where Rob's army fights Tywin's army, and they knock Tyrion out.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They knocked Tyrion out because they couldn't afford to show the battle because they spent all the money. So they knocked Tyrion out, fade to black, open on battle over, and people go, cool, all right. Because we hadn't seen a battle at that point. So they're like, you know, and then they show Blackwater and you're like, oh, that's where they spent all the money on the rocks for crushing those lads' heads and the fucking explosion, you know. So Valhalla has the opportunity to do the coolest shit from the get-go. And what most shows, what people will say, obviously Game of Thrones season 1 didn't have the money, so they had to focus on the dialogue and the actors and the drama, you know. I think Valhalla will do the same thing, and they can do massive battles, but they're also trying to do the thing that every other show does, is trying to attract people in to care about people. So doing Vikings, it was easier. It wasn't it was easier because when I finished work, I'd go home to my own house. I don't have to go home to a hostel with 14 people, and then all of a sudden Germany are playing fucking Northern Ireland, and everyone in the other room is pumping music till 4 a.m, and I'm trying to go to bed, you know. But yeah, the show, it was good, and obviously the boats, like the longship work is the best part of working on Vikings, because you're literally on a ship and you're really rowing that ship and you're really out in the elements. And obviously Ireland is absolutely beautiful, so you could use your phone, you could take photos, you know.
Oh yeah.
Which on Game of Thrones we were told not to, you know. So it's cool that you can actually see something cool, like an amazing sunrise, and go and keep it, you know. Or you can see something cool and take photos, which is always a nice little thing to have, as much as you're about to get in trouble if you share it anywhere. It was a nice laid back environment. Obviously it was hard, and obviously everyone was hard working, and the crew are still doing the same job, and you're watching us trying to do a battle and they're filming a shot from the top of a hill. Those crew members have to carry that camera up that hill with no vehicles, because they can't afford the major vehicles that a bigger show would have. So and those crew members were also from the Tudors, so they all knew each other, so it worked, and they all clicked together, and then it will click right into Valhalla. So there's no, hey, who are you, what do you like? It's, let's get to work, give me that 45 or whatever they say. So yeah, there was differences, for sure.
You've met,
mainly because, sorry, go ahead.
You've met Catherine Winnick and Travis Fimmel. How did that compare to Game of Thrones?
When I joined in season 3, the show was big, but it wasn't as big as it got eventually once they had afforded to show it all over Amazon. So obviously Ragnar Lothbrok, Travis Fimmel, is he's the main guy, and he will always be the main guy. And he's even when Valhalla's on season 4, they'll be like, nah, where's Ragnar? You know, like they will always want that. and he's a really nice guy, really down to earth, and never wanted the fame, never wanted the acting. So when he sits around, he just sits around, and he would fuck around like he's a giant child who plays with fire extinguishers and throws shit at people. And that kind of prankster vibes, and he then taught that to the new actors who played his son, so they would then fuck around with each other, and it just makes the set, a lot of the extras will fuck around with each other, and there's Instagrams to show you that, of all the videos of people tied to tables and mid-scene just messing around. And like, anytime there's a feast, watch a shot of Vikings, there will be someone just throwing their drink in someone's face just to mess with them. So meeting them, it wasn't, obviously the starstruckness didn't exist. It was the first time I experienced watching someone like Travis Fimmel react to being famous when the show opened up to season 3, and they doubled and tripled their amount of extras. And someone asks, because all it takes is, and obviously I said you're allowed to have your phone, so people are now, hey Travis, can I take a photo? And he's going to go, yeah. And then he would go and just stay like that, because the next person's going to go, oh, can I get one? And I get one, and I get one. And maybe you can do some research and check up all the photos of people with Travis Fimmel on the set of Vikings. He's got the same face on, because it was like meeting him at Comic-Con. He just stood there like, right, I'll just do this to 50 people, and then that's me done for the day, So it's that kind of thing. So it was like a thing of going, Jesus, it looks very kind of zoo-like, but with the other guys that he'd worked with from season 1 and season 2, they would be normal work friends, if that makes sense. So it was when they opened the show to more people, then you opened up to the fans, and then you open up to that, okay, well, we have to keep Travis or we have to keep Catherine away because we don't know how people are going to react, and you, like, there's a guy that was on Vikings has all the cast members tattooed on his arm. Is that strange that you'd be beside the person you have tattooed on your arm? Like, if I had you tattooed on my arm, would you be like, what the fuck is that? Or would you be like, oh my god, that's really flattering? Because there's two ways of doing it. So you'd have to be the kind of keep, you could meet them. It was easier to talk to them. It was not easier to talk to them. Obviously it's difficult to talk to anybody that you don't know, but it's easier to get access to them, and we would be more in the shit together, so they would be dropped off to a certain point. We'd all have to walk to set, whereas Thrones has the budget to have Range Rovers bring them directly to where they're about to start acting from. So meeting them, and obviously Adam Copeland, Edge, the wrestler. Yeah, he's in season. Yeah, he's in the. I didn't get to meet him.
Fuck.
He would have been the only one that I would have been like running up, spear him. No. But like I, it's that thing of, you hear he's a really nice guy, and I was like, fuck, I wish I went to Iceland. In the show, not in real life. They just filmed it in Ireland. Everything was filmed in Ireland. So it's that thing of like, there's one other character who plays the Wanderer, played by Kevin Durand.
Very memorable.
Most of the time, I get asked, "Am I that guy?"
There is a resemblance there. I gotta say.
I know.
Look alike.
I don't see it. But I was in a hostel in Belfast, and a guy was like, "Hey, are you that guy from Vikings?" And the manager of the hostel was like, "Yeah, he's in Vikings." And then the guy was like, "No way, you're the dude from Vikings." And I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. Because he was like, "I'm going to the shop. You guys want beer?" Yes. So he just bought us loads of beer, So he's making Snapchats thinking he's with the guy from Vikings. He thinks he's with Harvard. I'm drinking all his Budweiser. Yeah, of course I'm going to. I didn't say yes. I never said I was him. But I never said I wasn't him. But I would have liked to have met him, because people kept thinking I was him, And to the point where there was a scene where he's kissing a load of girls, like he's basically, glamoring all these girls. And 2 or 3 days later, I'm on the set, and this girl was like, "Oh, hey, did you have fun the other day?" And I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, you were with my friend." I'm like, "What?" But I didn't realize this guy existed, and she thought I was eating the face off every girl on that set for the show. And it was just kind of funny to be like, what the fuck is she talking about? And then one of the makeup artists going, "Oh, you really look like the guy who was here yesterday." And I was like, oh, okay, who is he? He's like, oh, and then they explained what was going on. So it's good, and it's a good show. And
Definitely.
Valhalla, obviously, is I'm excited. The trailer is dropping tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But whatever date this is, the date after that, because we're going on like 3 hours here, so he's got a lot of editing to do.
Oh, for sure. But I really like the ending of Vikings, because it came back to what made Vikings good in the first place, like all the England stuff, and I actually really like Ivar. I think he was very solid addition to the story and all.
I loved it.
And
Alex is brilliant.
Yeah.
Like he legitimately crawled along the ground a lot, and he watched, like, there's some certain scenes in Vikings that they're the scenes that I'd love to self-tape. I'd love to monologue those scenes, because they stick with me. And obviously the first one is Ragnar saying goodbye to Gyda when he's sitting on the shore, and he's unbelievable. One day I'll learn it. And the other one is when Ivar is sitting in the chariot in the rain.
I know exactly what you
mean. And
mean.
I'd love to learn all of it, all the Norse, and just scream at a camera like a lunatic. Like, you know,
powerful scene.
Drink every time Eric says Jason Momoa. But when Jason Momoa did his audition for Game of Thrones, he did the haka, and the haka is incredible to watch.
Yeah,
and to watch it. Clive Standen, who played Rollo, did the haka before we did the attack of Paris, and in complete silence, we were just about to shoot, and he just kicked off, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing." And goosebumps thinking about it now, because it's like, it's such a thing to witness.
For sure.
So that to me felt like Ivar's like haka moment, you know, like he's literally, and then doing the end in season 6 where he's like a puppet master, and we're doing some background fighting behind him, and I'm just looking, because I'm like, that's so fucking cool, you know. And I'm watching that, it's cool. And obviously his final scenes for the final season, I could cry watching it, and I'm like, that's, you know, he was the one that I was like, yeah, that's my guy. I'm giving all my emotional investment in him. And Alex is an incredible actor, and he stole the show. And look, he was the pit stop Ragnar, and then jumped straight to Alex or to Ivar. And Ivar the Boneless discovered Dublin, and where I used to get the bus to college, there's a pillar to Ivar the Boneless, and I'm like, I never even knew, you know, it doesn't say, it's just there, you know. So it's really, really cool.
So we also talked about the Game of Thrones tours, but I want to talk about it again. When you're not busy going berserk on a battlefield, you're giving Game of Thrones tours. And what are some of your favorite fan encounters? Any funny stories? I mean, you told me you met Marcel Schmelzer one day, the footballer.
Yes, I had no idea who he was, which is good, because then that means I'm not talking to him about football. Him and his wife and his friend Dimitri came on the tour, and I still talk to them sometimes, which is cool, because it was like a private tour. And it's really interesting, because when I first started doing the tour in 2016, I was offered to do a private tour for someone who works, who was signed to a record label around St. Patrick's Day, and I said no, because I just started the job and I didn't want to be the guy who fucks it up for the tour. I didn't want celebrity, some high standard, who could give the tour the promotion it needed, and I get on there and go, and they go, what's that? And I go, oh yeah. It's my first day, you know.
Pressure.
And as far as I'm aware, it was Adele, the singer.
Wow.
And she would be the only person. At the time, she was playing a concert in Dublin. She's signed to that record label that I was told. And obviously she's at the level that they would say, don't fucking say a thing, you know? So from that point onwards, once I learned how to do my job properly, of course, I have met every crazy Game of Thrones fan ever, and I'm completely uncensored. And so are they sometimes. Once I've given them the option to do whatever they want without any consequences, then of course they start to have fun. two people got engaged on my tour. I mean, two sets of couples. And it was the first time I've ever witnessed an engagement. And it was that thing of, do I do stuff? Am I supposed to help you? Like, because I'm the guy who has to set this stuff up. And they're still married, which is good, The best story, and obviously if any of the people from the tour are listening now, this is what I said to you, TripAdvisor is forever. So if I start bad-mouthing some of them, they were like, right, get back on it, tell him he's a cunt. But two people who didn't know each other met on the tour. And if you ever go on the tour, the seats aren't allocated. You get on the tour, you show up early, you get the fucking first seats, you sit at the front, you sit at the back, you sit wherever you want. Two people sit randomly on the bus and they get talking over Game of Thrones. And after that, they get hanging out after that. And then they ended up meeting in a different country because one of them was from New Orleans, the other one was from England, and they would meet all the time. And now they are married. Wow. Because of a Game of Thrones tour, which is the best thing ever. And it's so kind of weird to, obviously I added a lot of them on Facebook, and to watch them still be together. And I wonder, did they tell the story of how they met as they met on a Game of Thrones tour? And I wonder if I'm part of it. The greatest wingman in the world. Yeah. So it's cool like that. And fan encounters, like I met Melina, the wrestler, which is cool. She was a friend to one of the girls who paid for the tour. She was doing Dublin Comic Con. So we hung out and went for drinks afterwards, me and her and her friend. And it just opened the kind of weird opportunities. I met a French band and they were like, hey, do you want to be in our music video? And I was like, all right, cool. So they sent me to France to do their music video. I met just so many people, and obviously the people who are listening to this who give a shit, they'd be like, yeah, I met him on the tour. And even now, like, what's happening is the Game of Thrones tour Facebook and Instagram group are sharing photos of me at the studio tour, and there's people going, oh, he was my tour guide in 2016, best day ever. And I'm going, I don't even remember who you are. Like, I've met 20,000 people. I'm sorry. And obviously there's people from the tour that are much closer to me. And there's two people that have made the last 2 years the best 2 years for my career ever. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And it's just crazy that it's just a little stupid tour about a TV show. And it's just changed everything, so.
People are passionate about it, and there's this huge community. It's just it also means everything to me, man. It's been my escape place for whatever challenges you have to deal with in real life. Like it's, you go online
and like I would
talk to people from all around the world about this fictional stuff, and it's fascinating. And it's
it would happen on the tour, and obviously the type of people that will be kind of affected by fantasy television show. And obviously if I told you I like comic books 20 years ago, you get beaten up. But now it's like, you got comic books? Me too, man. I fucking love Iron Man or whatever. It's just changed completely. And when I go on the tour and I see the type of people that are there, and I know those people maybe have social anxiety or difficult in social situations, but as soon as I start saying, are you a big fan of Game of Thrones? And they fucking just talk and they go, and then they go, oh, every Saturday night we'd get to my friend's house and we'd watch Game of Thrones on Sunday, and we'd do this, and we used to do this, and everyone's Game of Thrones wedding. Oh, we played Red Wedding music at our thing. Our son's name is Jon Snow. All that sort of stuff. It's just like, holy shit, I thought I was affected emotionally by it. Well, like, there's people that have banked their whole life on this thing.
Yeah.
And I would obviously love when people show up on the tour in costume, just didn't give a fuck, just walking down Dublin city centre dressed as Daenerys Targaryen. And it's just so funny. And then once at the end of the tour, if you guys, anyone listening, we give you out swords. I've never even met you people, and within 7 hours I'm giving you swords, and you could just go mental, you know, and watching people with their favorite sword, and you know, just it's just so fun. And I gave a fucking 6-month-old baby like ice, you know, to hold. There's a great photograph, but I'm like, this guy brought his kid, and I've seen an 11-year-old on the tour with his mom just see boobs for the first time, because she was like, I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones. I'm going on this tour. Is it okay if my 11-year-old's here? I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It's your bad parenting that's getting him here. Like, I'm about to say fucking shit and but you know, whatever. And I'm watching this kid watch Bran get pushed out the window, and I'm going, don't fuck around, you know. I'll push you out this bus. Stupid shit happened. The electrics went in the bus once, and the automatic door, the door wouldn't close, so I had to hold the door. Yeah, I know. I know it's funny now, but I legitimately had to hold a bus door closed. You know when Captain America has to stop the helicopter from flying?
I'm not a Marvel guy.
Well, I'll send you a picture of Captain America's bicep afterwards. I was literally holding the door closed as the bus driver drove 100 miles an hour to the next location to get it fixed. And there was just silence. There was no aircon. There was no music. It was just me struggling to hold this door, you know? So yeah, it's been crazy. And like the whole tour, obviously it started in 2016, 17, 18, 19, and then pandemic, nothing. They are starting back up again, and it's whether I want to go back or not, it's really up to me, because the hype is gone. And I always said that if I'm not emotionally invested, if I don't give you the best tour you've ever got, then I shouldn't work there, because I don't want you to get on that bus and then be like, it was all right. I want you to go, that was the best fucking tour ever, you know? And that's kind of what I would do every time. And it's a difficult job, because no matter what happens between, let's say I work on a Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if I have the worst day ever, I have to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and be the happiest man alive, you know, because if I get up there and be like, all right, everyone, yeah, I'm very sad, so enjoy this bus journey. And even during the filming of season 8 and watching, like I watched Andy's documentary on the bus home one night for the first time, and I was just crying on the bus, like loudly, you know, because I'm watching it for the first time. And at the end of the day, I'm saying goodbye, and I'm saying goodbye like, and like, luckily they know I worked on the show, but during the ending of season 8, during the filming and doing tours, I was an emotional wreck, and I'd be just about to cry before they've even realized I've been in the show. And then once I tell them, they're like, oh, okay, he's not a lunatic. He's not just randomly sobbing. He's not just having a breakdown. We haven't paid €60 for him to have a breakdown. But yeah, no, when you come over, obviously, tour, no problem. Jump on.
Oh, for sure.
I'll tell the boys
100%.
who you are. We'll do a 24-hour tour. We'll do every location. Me, you, Andy.
Oh, I'll be down.
It'd be like Dumb and Dumber.
Man, I'll be down. I'll be so down. It's been, as I said, on my to-do list for a couple of years now. Just never fit in. Just never worked. But maybe this year. Let's see.
Sure.
I have, before we go into fan questions, I have one last question for you, and it's about the Time of the Wolf.
Okay.
What can you tell us about the Time of the Wolf, if anything?
I don't know, and I don't want to get my hopes up, you know, because obviously, you know, knowing TV and how it works. So the Time of the Wolf is a pilot TV series that I'm working on. It has a varied amount of cast, and it has a very interesting story, and it's about gods and the human world. It's set in like 2022, and it's if I start getting hyped and I start talking about it and I'm like, yeah, it's going to be sick, and then Netflix are like, we don't want it, then I'll be like, but you know. And I also don't know how much I can talk about it. As far as I'm aware, it is based off of a book series that will come out this year. And obviously that's always a good thing. If something's a book, it's potentially got a fan base behind it. So we will see. it's the first proper acting gig I ever got properly. If it kicks off, I could, maybe make a living off of it. And I get to do cool shit. The characters that I play a thing.
He's not sure if you can talk about it. No, it's fine.
It's not that. It's just I don't want to mention names, and then people to go, "Oh shit, he's doing this." And I'm like, no, it's a different thing to that. So yeah, it's. I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. The pictures looked awesome. Like, it was really good.
The reason I have them, and I was asked it's okay to share them, is the camera operator actually gave me a lift back to the ferry, and I was like, yo, send me that shit. I promise I won't tell anybody. But yeah, no, it's going to film over this year, and obviously with COVID it's difficult because they're trying to shoot between a couple of countries. And when you're the start of the production, you don't have the backing to be like when I shot the top of Mount Snowdon. We couldn't tell the walkers not to walk there.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, who? And you'd be like, oh, no, like in a few years it might be popular. But we just have to, I'm shooting a scene and some fella shouting, what the fuck are you filming over there? During the take. It's we couldn't stop them, so it'll be a difficult few months to film scenes, especially in the public, and because it's set in now, like as we are doing script readings, if something changes in the real world, like presidents and stuff like that, it's changed. It's kept, like South Park. It's live. So hopefully it's interesting. And
it makes it interesting.
For me, the characters that I'm playing, are doing the coolest shit. That I'm like, I hope it's picked up. Because I want to do that thing that happens in episode 3. And when you guys watch episode 3, you're gonna be like, what the fuck, And it's cool to be on this side of it, So we shall see about that. NDA.
Yeah, all good. All right, I have a few fan questions for you, Eric. The first question is from our buddies from Sweet Film Talk. Which one are you more excited for, the Game of Thrones show or Lord of the Rings, and why?
Lord of the Rings. Why? Because it's Lord of the Rings. It's my favorite thing ever. Every Christmas I watch it like it's Die Hard. Because I always want to be in it. Me and my friends group are constantly quoting Lord of the Rings. I did Game of Thrones, completed it, mate. Obviously House of the Dragon will be sick, and then as soon as it's sick, I'll jump on it, I'll be like, I always wanted it to be cool, But Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings. And I can't wait to see it. Because then it's that thing of, then I get to watch Lord of the Rings, the movies again. For no reason. I'm just researching. No, let me watch 3.5 hours. The show, it's I was fortunate enough to do something that ended up, I met someone who's already worked on it, on the first series, and they have led me to the door, and I'm going to spend this week trying to kick that fucking door in. And then in that, thing, be like, just put me in Lord of the Rings. I don't want to do anything else. Just put me in Lord of the Rings. Because I know you guys put people in Lord of the Rings. So fucking put me in Lord of the Rings. And then that's it. Just retire,
And action.
Yeah. Well, it would be cool to do Lord of the Rings. And I really think you can keep this in. Just have a massive cut at some point, because if you see anybody who's watching or listening, whatever medium you're using this, if there's suddenly I'm mid-sentence and then I'm not, it's because I said something I'm not supposed to say, and only he heard it. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, it'll be sick. And because it's moved location, it's moved towards much closer to me. Like, there's no way I'm getting on a plane for 24 hours to get to New Zealand to do it. And I don't believe at this time I have the acting skills for any production to send me to send me to New Zealand. But I could just happen to be close to the studio and go, do you need anyone to grab anything off a shelf? I'm very tall. Do you need anyone to do an impression of every orc in Lord of the Rings? Because I'll do that as well, So I've been training, fighting, axe and sword and shield and bow and arrow and orc, and that's it. I'm ready. Put me in the game, coach. So, or maybe I have to do what I had to do with the other series that I'm in, just not be a fan of it. And then they were like, yeah, put this guy in. He doesn't care. So yeah, no, I don't care about Lord of the Rings. Yeah, no.
What is that?
Exactly. But yeah, no, way more hype for Lord of the Rings. Thanks, boys.
Then I have 3 questions by Yasmin Louise. She's asking, how much combat training did you do to prepare for Vikings and Thrones? That's the first one.
To prepare? None. How much did I get? Yeah, it happened beforehand. So at Vikings, battle-wise, just before you do the battle, you have to do a boot camp, which is obviously for insurance because they're about to give 300 people plastic sticks or hard weapons and shields and heavy stuff. So we will work with the stunt team. They will teach the extras a sequence and they will just recycle that sequence. So for me and you, we will fight tap, 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 shield bash, tap, 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 shield bash, and just recycle that over and over again. And then when they call action, all that goes out the window because everyone's like, oh, dude, I got a sword. Let's fuck around. And then when you went to Game of Thrones for Battle of the Bastards, we did a couple of weeks of training with the stunt team from those guys. They gave us wooden sticks, like practice swords, first of all. And then they basically graded us. So it's 300 of us fighting in pairs. And they were like, these guys look good. They're Group A. Those guys look all right. They're Group B. Those guys should never be allowed near anything. Those guys are Group C. So how it will work is Jon Snow is in the center with the stunt team. Then it's Group A around him. Then Group B around him. Then Group C are running around getting people coffees. So it's the safest for the actors and the stunt team to be a part of. And then as the seasons went on, depending on what happens, I would just be more prepared. I went and got separate classes because I didn't want to get to the set. I can do this recycling bit, but to pass the time, you're doing fighting for 6 or 7 minutes straight. It is tiring, but if you're doing new stuff each time with a fight partner who's also enthusiastic, then you boys are just having fun. You're getting paid to fuck around. So now I'm even more trained than I ever was. And I actually recently did a firearms training course. So, which is not the world I've ever been in. It's always swords and axes and shields. And I've been training with a company. And they've also signed me to their agency, which is a SPACed agency, like a special action agency. And those guys were responsible for a lot of stuff that's happened recently in the TV and film world, including The Witcher. So hopefully if anything like that comes by and they pick up that job, I will be able to do what I've done for Vikings and Game of Thrones for a much higher wage, which means it's still fun, except I also have money to spend more on courses and I'm just going to use all my money to become the biggest killer in the world for TV and film and have no other savings because I keep spending it.
Well, I'm here for it.
Yeah. It comes in and I go, cool. And I just give it to somebody else. Next week, I'll be training with a VFX stunt actor and he works with creature effects and arm extensions. So if you've ever seen the Planet of the Apes series, the new series with Andy Serkis. Is it Andy Serkis? Yeah, Andy Serkis, James Franco, and all those guys where the actors had the arm extensions where they're walking around like gorillas and apes and stuff like that. I'll be training with him, with a friend of mine, and I can't wait to just pretend I'm not human for a few hours. Yeah. So no prepared.
Sweet.
No prepared. Sweet. Not even English. No prepared.
No preparo. Yeah, the next question, the second question, is when filming for Game of Thrones, what was your favorite scene to shoot and why?
The favorite scene would have to be the funeral scene, even though it was hard to do and hard to witness and hard to be a part of. It's still my favorite scene because of all the stuff that came around with it. Being in the room when Jon is crowned King of the North was a good scene to be a part of because we didn't have to do anything other than watch incredible actors act, and then people behind the scenes tell me that this is where they reveal Jon Snow's real parents, and you're going, class, like you're hearing this stuff for the first time. So the battle stuff is always good. no matter what, even though it's hard. And the long night was the hardest, but it was so fun to be running up walls and Jamie Lannister fucking screaming in your face to get up that wall. And even though it's fake, I'm getting up that wall because he shouted, you know. So, and you're there, and there's dudes on fire, and it's just carnage. And we were given a lot of free will liberties to fight. So we were trained by Vladimir Firdik, who plays the Night King, and he taught us how to fight multiple opponents. So we would be, let's say, take me and a couple of wildlings, we'd be a group on the battlement, and you'd be fighting one guy, and then when he dies, he has to lie on the ground for 3 seconds and get back up and fight again because he's undead. He's, you know, they have to keep recycling the 100,000 of them. So the fighting is insane, and we're like, you know, doing stupid shit, but it was really fun. So,
and then the last question, the last fan question, but also the last question for today, is: do you have anything excited lined up in terms of acting or singing that you can tell us about?
No.
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
Not that I don't have anything lined up, I just can't tell you. That's the thing. I always have to work in you know, I could say the coolest shit ever and be like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, and then they won't be like, well, we heard you on that thing, you're not coming to work. Is there anything cool? Yeah, I'm going to try and be a voice actor. I can tell you that. Do you like listening to my voice? Please write in the comments below.
I can vouch for him. He sent me a clip of him as a orc. He's very, very good at it.
Yeah, so I have a degree in sound engineering, so I can make myself sound much cooler, tougher than I actually am. So if you're allowed to do that for your vocal reel, then that's what I'll do. If not, I'll rip my vocal cords to shreds trying to do voices for TV or film. I would love to be in computer games, and I think that's the thing. That's what I'll be doing, and whether it's successful or not, you won't know until it's too late. You won't know until it's out, you know. So just pretend. Perception is reality, isn't that right?
Sure.
So just because it looks like I'm busy doesn't mean I am. Yeah, Valhalla's back soon. I'll be back on that, hopefully, unless something else happens. And there's some stuff I've said yes to. I'm just waiting to hear back. Big stuff, little stuff. Obviously, The Time of the Wolf, I will have to film more scenes, and I hear that they've spent most of their budget on one of the set pieces for me, which is a crazy sentence to hear. And I'm just going to keep training and maybe get an acting class. But then if I don't like it, I might just quit. So maybe I won't do it. I'll just keep winging it. You know, fake it till you make it. No one on Game of Thrones told me I was shit, except maybe Andy. but yeah, no. There's some stuff coming out August. There's some stuff coming out in December. There's some stuff coming out in soon. Big stuff. And they'd be like, whoa, there's that guy from Instagram. No. Yeah, no, I can't say anything.
All right, let's wrap it up. Eric, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's such a pleasure to talk to you, to listen to you talk about all these experiences you've had in the show. And I wish you nothing but the best for the future, man. And you deserve it.
Thanks, man.
Definitely.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's it. It's like you guys, like yourself, and a couple of other guys, like the Sweet Film Talk guys and the Nerd Soup guys. They're like people I've never met in person, but it's like, yo, keep going, kid. You know what I mean? Because it's that thing of like, you guys would be the ones I'm like, yo, here's some cool shit that might be happening. I can't tell you, but there's some cool shit happening. You'll just have to work it out, you know, from this fucking Riddler style Instagram post.
But I've been successful one time, didn't I? Wasn't I?
Yeah, man, you're like fucking emergency awesome. That guy's got a man on the inside at all productions. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, and obviously I can come back. We've just been talking for longer than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So we'll cut it down to 45 minutes. We'll make it really dark, and then at the end we'll say George had the best story about Game of Thrones. But yeah, no, I'll be back.
Yeah,
on House of the Dragon.
always glad to have you. You're always welcome.
Sweet.
So thank you guys so much for watching, and see us later.